I would unplug the TV actually from the Eero.
TV's turned off.
Okay.
I have to turn the TV off to make sure I don't blow a fuse. Oh, there's Carmina.
Carmina, I just admitted her.
Okay, so did I.
There she is. Hello.
Are you better?
Am I better?
Yeah, you said you
Oh,
were.
I'm in a, I don't know. I'm in some weird, I don't know. It's a weird day. Something's not quite right. I can't put my finger on it, to be honest with you. I have no idea what the problem is. Anyway, we are, what I'm doing now is sharing the program all over. We're doing the sharing bit, and we'll be doing that for a little bit. If anybody is in the room, I have no idea who might be watching. Just hang with us. This is the super fun bit of the program where you get to watch me share all over Facebook. Because goodness knows we can only do it one location at a time. Super efficient. A multi-mega billion-dollar company with the best programmers on the planet can only let you share in one place at a time, rather than build a share list. Is what we're up to. If anybody is in, there's 5 people. So whoever those 5 folks are, we ask you to hang in with us. This is the extremely fun pre-show part of our program where we do the sharing of the link all throughout the Facebook universe, one page at a time. It's kind of like getting a rainstorm, one drop at a time. We need the water, but boy, it takes a long time. Ah, they have changed. Interesting. Very interesting. They appear to have changed. Okay. It's sharing time. One drop at a time. It's warm in here, my goodness. Is it warm in here? This room? It's incredibly warm in here. PCN appears to have changed its page. No longer share there. Guess I shouldn't really suppose that has anything to do with me, but I find it convenient. Should have took my inhaler. Should have took my inhaler.
Are you gonna be okay?
Oh, I wish I could say it was excitement. I don't know if it's excitement. uh, it is in the kitchen. It's the purple disc. It's the round, yeah. Has to be a better way to do this. I mean, my goodness, there just has to be a better way to do this. It's insanity. I mean, honestly. Oh, goodness. How are you, Carmina?
I'm great.
Good. Awesome. How's your connection?
Great. I'm on my
Last
phone.
time you were here, you had a dodgy.
Yeah, so I'm on my phone and I'm sharing your page on my laptop on my Facebook profile page. So
Yeah.
I joined the Zoom via my phone, which has no problems. I've learned a lot since we last talked.
Oh, so you're the one that actually learned, not me.
Yeah,
You were the one that was adult enough to learn.
I learned.
Not me. I don't know. George learns, you learn, I don't learn anything. Probably looked really exciting on camera. Probably looked really...
Antoinette said she's trying to get on MPW. What does MPW stand for?
I have no idea.
I don't know what that
I
means.
sent her the same picture I sent you. If she just
Yeah.
uses that, it's
Let me
fine.
just,
She's in.
Oh, Jeff, that looks awful. I'm so sorry.
That couldn't have looked too exciting on camera. I got to be honest.
No, it
All right.
didn't.
That could not have looked too exciting. Let's start doing our...
But you go, Kristen. That's your ace coon. She's
Carmina's
I would-
oh, Kristen, that's your ace. That is correct. Okay. We are now doing our sharing to the myriad of groups that are kind enough to carry the program. We appreciate the people who have come in early. I know that this program is not necessarily the most exciting thing in the world, but it is part of what we have to do. And so I noticed that there were a few folks in watching early. We appreciate it very, very much. We appreciate every single individual that has anything to do with the program. So I know that this pre-program is certainly not the most exciting bit of entertainment, but it is what we have to do. And we appreciate you being there and hanging with us for this back room, back channel, backstage, technical bit of
Oh, great. There she
the
is.
program.
There's my girl.
We will be finishing the sharing process very shortly. We will push play. I'm a little late, actually, to be pushing play on 101. Should probably copy that software and give it to George. Whoops, did not mean to send that there. They're not going to be happy about that. Whoops. Should not have sent the program there. They're not going to be happy. Whoops. It just went to the middle school page. Oh, goodness, they're not going to be happy. Okay, should not have sent the program. Let me turn the sound down on there. Okay. Okay. Hang on, everyone.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. 'Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair?
We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Kennedy, 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 for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Welcome, 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 one and all, every single one of you, wherever you may be watching. Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect for the 14th of March, 2021. If you saw the show announcement that I put out across the some 90 now Facebook outlets, you will know that I put a few show topics that we were going to cover today. And those show topics would have intimated to you that we had no guest planned. Well, sometimes, perhaps maybe because this Irish guy is Irish and because it's St. Patrick's Week, luck finds you. Even though the story that we are going to cover tonight has nothing to do with luck or is a good story in any way, sometimes luck finds you. And a very important story has found us and deserves more than deserves our attention. Tonight, we're going to discuss the story, and you will see on your screen, of Antoinette Hodge. I was lucky enough, you will be familiar with the other wonderful face on the screen with you, of Carmina Taylor, who comes to revisit us. I've warned every guest that's been a part of the program that, once you come through the door, we got you. And we'll call on you again. And we have done so with Carmina. Carmina reached me on, I think it was Friday night, to discuss what has been happening with Ms. Hodge in her municipality and her election to office. And I'm not going to give too much away. I will let them explain it because they can explain it infinitely better than I. But this is an extremely important story, and it is because it speaks to so many different things, so many different issues that are wrong with our political process. It speaks to power. It speaks to the good old boy network. It speaks to breaking glass ceilings. It speaks to women in politics. It speaks to women of color in politics. It speaks to money. And it speaks to, letting sunshine into the dark places, flagrant, open breaking of the law, and when no one, and seeking help and redress into the areas of power that are supposed to represent you, and then they don't. So there's a lot to cover in this story, and we will let them do so. But first, wherever you may be watching across Facebook, again, we share the program now to about between 80 and 90 different places. I know it sounds like a fish story, like I caught that little fish, and every time I tell the story, it grows and grows and grows. Well, we continue to share the program to more and more places every single week, and we're very, very grateful for that. So wherever you may be watching or consuming the program currently, you are welcome to stay there and enjoy. However, if you would like to take part in the live chat that is currently happening right now, you may do so by coming to our home group Facebook page for all things having to do with the Kennedy effect. And that Facebook page is right on your screen, That Other Side of Information. Click on what you see in the timeline. Page will expand. You will see the comments, and you can comment in there. Say hello. Ask questions, comment, agree, disagree, anything. It's an open forum. It's all yours. To our sisters, brothers, friends, and family on hot101.net, literally around the globe, thank you for welcoming us back yet again into your cars, your devices, on your smart speakers. However it is that you consume hot101.net, we thank you for allowing us to be part of your Sunday evenings. If you do not know how to listen to hot101.net by now, where the heck have you been? We go through this every single week and we explain it. It's so super easy. The name is the web address. It's hot101.net. That will take you to the main website page. You can listen right from there. If you have an Apple device, you can go to the Apple App Store and find the app for hot101.net. If you have an Android device, go to the Google Play Store and you can find that app for hot101.net. If you should happen to have the TuneIn radio app, go to the search bar up at the top, search for hot101.net, and you can listen through the TuneIn radio app. We love NPR here at the Kennedy Effect, but we are not NPR and we don't want to be NPR. So that means we do not want to lecture to you. We want this to be an interactive program as much as humanly possible. There are so many ways to interact with the program. You can live tweet the program. We'll get your Twitters. Yeah, Twitters. That was wrong. We'll get your tweets. I'm an older guy, I don't have all the terminology down. We'll get your tweets. You can live tweet the program. Go to twitter.com/thatothersideofinformation. The Twitter handle is @ThatKennedyTalk. And if you've missed any of the program, if you miss any of the live program, you can catch the fully recorded every bit of the program at our YouTube channel, also called That Other Side of Information. You can catch the program on Instagram, That Other Side of Information. And don't forget our Patreon, That Other Side of Information. You can find me on what might be the 7th level of social media hell, TikTok, That Other Side of Information. But let's get to our guests. You'll see if you're watching the program, 4 lovely squares on your screen. My ugly mug, George, our technical producer, is with us, and our 2 guests, Carmina Taylor and Antoinette Hodge. Let us start with Miss Antoinette. Antoinette, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Antoinette, rather than me try to probably badly explain what brings you here, and first off, thank you very much for taking time out of what is usually a family time on a Sunday evening. I want to thank you very much for being here. This is when Carmina brought this story to my attention, I must admit, I'm a little embarrassed to admit, but I must admit, I had not heard about this. And despite some of the national attention that it has gotten, I had not heard about this. And I tend to think of myself as a keen, listener of and paying attention to national issues. I had not heard of this. It's a shocking story. It continues to happen to you. This is not done. But I'm glad that we can shed a little bit of light on it. And I thank you for being here. So let me just essentially, I'm sure I will interrupt you quite a bit as we go through the questioning of this. I want to lay this all out in a chronological order if we can. But before we get into the actual story of what is and has happened to you, let me just start with this. Who is Antoinette Hodge and how did you get here?
Antoinette, I'm born and raised in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, and moved away and went to college at Duff's Business Institute, Philadelphia College of Textile and Sciences, and South University, has my master's degree in business administration and healthcare administration. And I moved back home to take care of my elderly parents after being gone from Uniontown for over 20 years. And sit on the Redevelopment Authority Board, which was appointed by a mayor when I moved back home, because I had previously worked with Philadelphia Housing Authority for over 10 years before going into healthcare. And I worked at Johns Hopkins Hospital for 8 years before returning home. Not married, single, believe in Jesus Christ, attend the Mount Oliver Baptist Church, family oriented, well-knit family, believe in education. All my nieces and nephews have graduated from college, and just a primary individual just wanting to do right and want to be able to help community and help our city and my state.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's about me.
And Carmina, welcome back to the program. Thank you for being here. Thank you for contributing to filling in the blanks on this story. You have joined us before. We welcome you back. And for those who may not know who you are, who is Carmina Taylor and how did you get here?
Wow. I'll just try to keep it simple because there's a lot. I think what's most relevant is that I'm the founder of the We Can't Wait PA statewide coalition. I live in the southeast region of Pennsylvania, and I spent the summer traveling to rural Pennsylvania, the summer and the fall. And I just have been transformed by my experiences because I've learned so much about the Black and Brown and the low income communities in rural PA. And I have tried to put together a coalition of groups and community leaders across the state to support local issues. And I have been all over, but this story particularly touched me about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I had met some Black leaders in Western PA that I had no idea about. Farrell City, City of Sharon in Mercer County. I met the mayor of Aliquippa in Beaver County. And I couldn't believe there were all these Black people there because I'm from the Southeast region. I just was so fascinated. So I had a call and I created a conversation series called Forgotten Black Cities, Forgotten Black Leaders in Pennsylvania. And about 3 weeks ago, I merged people from the West and the East to talk about how we could support one another. And at the end of the Zoom call, Antoinette told us her story. And being that most of the people on the call didn't know each other, everyone had a driven consensus that we wanted to support Antoinette emphatically. So what we're doing in Uniontown, I'm doing work in Johnstown to help people put their pardons in the pipeline, Lancaster, Lycoming. I am here under this coalition umbrella to help communities that have been marginalized and ignored in Pennsylvania. And Antoinette's story is just another mission within our coalition. So I got here because of you and Kristen and all these other people that I've met. And I believe that you guys see the heart that I have for this work. And I want to make Pennsylvania better. And so I have to do it bit by bit. And this is one that is most significant.
Well, thank you, ladies, again for being here. I'll probably thank you 100. Carmina knows I'll thank you about 100 times throughout the course of the program for being here. I know Sunday evenings are a little tough. Again, I know they're mostly family time, but let's dive into this right now. Now that we know each other a little bit, we've set the stage a little bit, and you can certainly explain it better than I. So let's get into it. Antoinette, let's just start. The general idea of this story is that you ran for treasurer, town treasurer, city treasurer of Uniontown. You won your election, and originally you were denied ever being sworn in.
Yeah.
You had to go to court to get sworn in. And after being sworn in, city government has broken the law of its own charter, and you have been denied the opportunity to actually fulfill the duties of your own office to which you were elected. Now, that's a very brief probably vast oversimplification of what we're talking about here, but let's start at the beginning. Did we lose Antoinette?
Did we?
No, she's turned everything off for some reason. There we go. I think we might be dealing with a dodgy internet connection. That's going to be, I might end up fighting that the whole time. But then Uniontown, that wouldn't shock me.
Exactly.
Are we still with us, Antoinette? Are you still here with us? You're muted. You're muted, Antoinette.
Needs to be gone, right?
I think we're going to
Okay,
be.
I'm here.
Okay. So, Antoinette, let's try to start from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning. Let's start from when you decided to run for treasurer of Uniontown. Why did you decide to do this?
Okay.
And what kind of general reactions or support or conversations did you have when you were thinking about taking this step?
Well, so it took me a long time when I first came back here to figure out what I wanted to do to help my city. And so by sitting on the redevelopment authority board and just talking with some of the local citizens and people that I grew up with that are still living here, I felt the need that we needed to get younger. Everyone that was in office were older. And so I had prayed about it, thought about it, and talked with some different individuals about, how the city was being ran, how our taxes were being, and I had, the interesting thing is that my dad's a disabled veteran. And so he was exonerated from paying taxes because he served the country. And he kept getting a tax bill. And I, kept calling the treasurer's office, asking why he was getting a tax bill, knowing that he was exonerated. Sent the paperwork a couple times, called in, everybody was not available to speak with me. So I decided to actually go down and talk with somebody. Now, this is prior to me moving home. Went in and tried to make an appointment with the former treasurer and told me that he was too busy to talk with me, but he was sitting in his office. And I figured, So I finally got an opportunity to speak with him, and I told him that if I ever moved back to Uniontown, I was going to take his seat. And he started laughing. And so I came home. I was busy working, trying to figure out why our community, why people were not on boards of color from different nationalities, and was getting like, well, we write letters or we think about it and nobody asks us to be on the boards. And I was like, that can't be. We have a voice in the city of Uniontown that we're paying taxes. We live here. And so I talked with some friends and they told me, well, if you want to do something instead of sitting on the sidelines complaining about it, get involved. So I waited thinking, because I hadn't been here, I hadn't been in Uniontown for a long time. Would I actually win a race? Because nobody really knew me. They knew my family and they knew my sister, but they didn't know me because I had been gone for so long. And so the last day before our petitions were to be picked up, I went in and got a petition, talked with my sister, a couple friends. They put it on Facebook. We set up a time for people to come sign my petition. And within 2 days, I had 250 signatures. So I was like, well, people must want to change. They want to see something different. I waited until the last day to turn in my petition. And I think a lot of people were shocked, because they didn't think I was going to get the signatures and my name was on the ballot. I reached out to some friends about getting signs, reached out to see what I needed to do as far as making sure that I had everything legit for me to run. I contacted, Election Bureau, make sure that everything that I was doing was proper, that I would not have any problems actually becoming the city treasurer if I won. I got the green light to go ahead. Primaries came and I beat the incumbent in the primaries.
And which primary?
So I was the only one on the ballot. The primaries, of May of 2019.
And which party primary is this?
It was the Democrat primary.
So you're a registered Democrat. The incumbent was a registered Democrat. So you took on the incumbent in the Democratic primary and beat him.
Yes. 46% margin. I beat him.
You beat him by 46 points?
Yes.
Crikey. That's rather thorough.
And so after I beat him in the primaries, I prepared that he might do a write-in for November. So I didn't let up. I continued to, put my name out there to make sure people knew that I was serious about it. And he did not do a write-in. And in November, I won the election of being city treasurer.
Tell us.
Prior to that, I reached out to state officials to find out, was there any tests that I needed to take? Even though I had a bachelor's degree, I wanted to make sure that there was nothing that I needed to do to become a tax collector, city treasurer. There was nothing. Basically, they told me that there would be a boot camp, that I would need to participate. And if there was any other information, I would get that information prior to. Well, go ahead.
Tell us a little bit about Uniontown. Tell us a little bit about your hometown. What kind of town is it? Is it an old industrial town? Is it quiet, sleepy little town, colonial town? Is it an old industrial? Is it run down, empty, trying to come back? Is it cute, touristy town? Is it, what is Uniontown? Tell us a little bit about your home.
Well, over the past years, it has been needed to be on the come up. A lot of the stores from downtown have closed, and we're actually trying to revalidate downtown, getting more business to come in. We have one mall. We used to have another mall, which was in Connersville, PA, but they closed that mall. It's more of a retirement place. So if you live your life and you have family and you have to come back and take care of your parents, this is the kind of town that you want to come back to. And you kind of think, for years, I would have never thought that what I'm going through would ever happen here in Uniontown.
Because you grew up there, you would say you had a good childhood. You were raised in a good, friendly place. You
correct.
You like your hometown.
And your neighbors,
you went home there for a reason.
Right. Your neighbors knew that if you were out of line, they had a right to beat you and then take you home.
And we mean that in a good way. The old-fashioned sort of way. Yeah.
Absolutely. It takes a village to raise one.
Right.
And so, if you were at the top of the street and you knew the street lights came on and you weren't home on the porch, Miss Susie was calling your mom to tell her, I just seen your child walking down the street.
Gotcha.
So coming back home, you're figuring, I grew up here, drugs and stuff crime has, taken a little beating on us, but you figure that, my best friend was, Caucasian. I went to her house sleepover. She came to my house for a sleepover. We did things together, went on family vacations. So coming back home, I'm thinking, hey, I'm coming back to a town that I grew up in.
Right.
Played basketball in, ran track in, never thought that, we changed this bad.
And for those that don't know, I live in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania myself. It might look smaller when you look at a map of the United States, but the Commonwealth, I think, is the fifth or sixth largest state in the United States. It's only, it might look small on a map until you have to drive across it. Carmina can tell you that. And
yes, I can.
So Uniontown, I had to look it up. I'm a bit embarrassed to say, but to be blunt, I had to look it up. You are southeast of Pittsburgh. I can't tell you by how much, and you are just north of the West Virginia border. Do I have that right? In Fayette County.
Yes, you're right.
So how far southeast of Pittsburgh are you, would you say?
51 miles.
50 only, roughly 51, not 52 and not 50, but 51. And how far north of the West Virginia border are you?
Maybe 12 miles.
Right. Just to put into some context where you are. And what's the population roughly, Uniontown? Roughly.
I think we're at like
10,000, I think.
10,000 something.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about a huge, we're not talking Philadelphia, Pittsburgh,
no,
Lehigh Valley, where I am, Scranton. We're not talking that.
Correct.
But again, wholesome town.
Yes.
You didn't move back there not knowing what you were getting into, or you didn't just, pluck a spot on the map and say, I think I'll move here.
Nope.
You knew what you were getting into.
I came back home.
So you decided to run for, actually, before I start another line of questioning, let me just say this. It's 5:30 Eastern time, daylight savings time, folks, if you have not fixed all of the blinking wrong clocks in your homes. 5:30 daylight savings time, 5:30 Eastern time here in the United States. This is the Kennedy Effect for the 14th of March 2021. Wherever you are watching on Facebook, stay there, enjoy, listen, join us, enjoy the program. However, if you wish to join the chat that is happening, comment, question, add to the debate, come to our home group Facebook page. It's right there on the screen. That other side of information. Our sisters and brothers and friends and family on hot101.net. Thank every single one of you literally around the globe for being with us this evening. If you don't know how to listen to hot101.net, well, the web address is the name. It's hot101.net. You can get the hot101.net apps at the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store for Android, or go to the TuneIn radio app and search for hot101.net. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Live tweet us at That Kennedy Talk. And the phone line will be open later in the program. You can also visit our patreon.com page and become a paid subscriber to the program, get additional content, goodies, all kinds of lovely things. Any money generated from the Patreon goes back into the program, not into our pockets. And believe me, not because we're wealthy, but because we want to consistently build, grow, and bring you a better program experience. If you've missed any of today's program, it will live on in Facebook Infinity at our home group page, but also at our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. And again, keep an eye on the screen. We will open up the phone line later in the program. So Antoinette, you decide to run for treasurer, you win your primary, then what happens? You go through you continue to campaign. I assume you had a Republican challenger in the general election. There were none. So after you got through the Democratic primary, you were essentially, that was it. You were unopposed. You were basically it. So you win the general election essentially by default. What happens after election day?
What happens after election day? Well, I found out that I was supposed to take a test to become a tax collector, and all this information was provided to City Hall. And no one contacted me and let me know.
Is that the first indication that something was a little like something was wrong? Was there any indication to you throughout the primary from either the Uniontown Democratic Committee or the Fayette County Democratic Committee or council people in Uniontown or the mayor or the controller or, fill in the blank here, that any of the problems that you've been encountering were going to happen? Was there anything, whispers, anything happening that things were going to go badly?
Well, during the primary, I had election poll workers for me who were hearing different things, me being called the color girl by some of the, folks who were elected officials. And it was interesting because we were laughing about it like, why would they use that term? But, it was blatantly at one of the polling places that one of my polling workers was like very distraught about it. She was like, I can't believe that they would actually say that. The incumbent had said to at one of the council meetings that he wasn't worried about the color girl, that I wasn't going to beat him in the primaries. And that night when I got the call from WMBS, our radio station, asking to do a live interview with me, I was actually sitting at dinner with my family. After the polls had closed, we had went out to eat. And when I had turned my phone off for the day, because I was like going to different polling places and didn't want to be interrupted, because I wanted to give, those residents who wanted to have a conversation with me, my full attention. And so during the dinner, my sister was like, her phone kept ringing and ringing and she didn't recognize the number. And she finally answered the phone and it was WMBS saying they've been trying to get a hold of me to congratulate me that I won. And so, we, from May to November, it was like, okay, I didn't know if my incumbent or if a Republican Party was going to do a write-in. So I was, mentally prepared. But when I found out that nobody had actually did a write-in, then, they were telling me I was automatically going to be the city treasurer. So when I found out from the state that I was supposed to take a test, I was like, well, I didn't know anything about it. And so then I found out a couple days before Christmas that they were saying that I wasn't able to get a bond. And I was like, that's weird, because I'm bonded by my church. I was bonded for my previous employer. So I later reached out to—
What is, for folks who don't understand what we're talking, what is the bond? What does that mean?
A bond is where you are being held liable for any funding that may come into the city. So you have to have a municipal bond that covers you to make sure that there's no wrongdoing going to happen.
So it ties you. It's kind of like assigning a monetary value to your fiduciary responsibility as treasurer.
Correct.
If you were to steal money, the bond would cover that. So
Correct.
it's not exactly an insurance policy, but it's kind of sort
Right.
of an insurance policy. I'm trying to break it down for folks who don't do what we do on a daily basis. I know what a bond is, you do, Carmina does, but for folks who don't do this on a daily basis, we try to explain to them what, some of these inside baseball terms. So you needed a bond to become treasurer. You've been bonded before, but you were having trouble getting one.
Right. According to what I was told. And
so here's where the problems now the alarm bells, I'm guessing, in your brain are starting to go off. So now the city government has not informed you that you had to take a test.
Correct.
And now they're actively making it difficult for you to get a bond.
They're saying that I couldn't get a bond based on something that was on my according to what I was told on my credit report. And so I was like, well, that's kind of impossible because I have a bond that is legit because I'm a trustee at my church. I had a bond for my previous employer. And rightly so, I was a fraud victim. And so there's key elements on my credit report that says that I am a fraud victim because I was married to someone who actually did some crazy things. However, I was not implicated in any of it. No wrongdoing on my part. So I've never had a criminal case, never had been arrested or anything. It was just that I was alerted because I married someone not from our country, who was into some illegal things and I found out and actually shut it down before it could get worse.
Almost like someone who would go through identity theft.
Correct.
It kind of sort of reflects on you, but once the investigation flushes out, they realize you had nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it.
So now the city is using that identity theft as an excuse not to, or at least to tell you anyway, that we can't get a bond out on you because of this identity theft or whatever that identity theft has done to your credit report, except that anyone who has suffered identity theft, and I haven't yet, but then again, I'm broke, so you could you can't get blood from a stone. So they're trying to say that what your credit report suffered under that identity theft was preventing the city from taking a bond on you.
Correct.
And you already know that that's false.
Correct.
Because you already know that your credit report was restored because you're not liable for the identity theft.
Correct.
So what are you thinking now when you hear this? When you start to put two and two together, and forgive me for talking so much, but I'm trying to walk us through this in a time, in a chronological way. So now you're supposed to take this test no one tells you.
Correct.
You've never held public office. You've never run for public office.
Correct.
You don't know the steps. You don't know the inside baseball stuff the way Carmina and I may. So now that the city government hasn't told you this,
correct.
Now they're using, for all intent and purpose, and you correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth here, or Carmina, you correct me if I'm doing it. For all, the city government now is a false credit report to deny you a bond.
Correct.
What are you starting to think now? What's happening? When you're at a quiet moment at home, what is starting to rattle through your head?
Well, because it was at the 9th hour that I'm finding all this out, in December 19th, a couple of days before I'm supposed to take the oath of office. I'm thinking,
when were you supposed to be sworn in? January 1st?
January 6th.
6. Okay. So about 3-ish weeks before you're supposed to get sworn in, this stuff is starting to come out. What are you beginning to think at this point?
What's going to happen next? So what are they trying? What are they trying to do?
But
Um,
are you thinking to yourself, why is this happening? Or do you
Correct.
already know? Is something in your brain saying, I know why this is happening? Or are you thinking, wait, I know these people, we get along perfectly fine. I know they might be a little sore that I beat the incumbent, but at the same time, I have support inside the Democratic Party. I got a sizable chunk of the vote. It was a free and fair election. There was no cheating, none of this. So what? I don't understand what the heck is going on here. Or are you already beginning to think to yourself, something's up here. This smells a little funky. What? Tell me what is happening to you at this point. Where is your brain going?
Well, being that not only did the incumbent lose to me, but the Democratic Party mayor lost as well, and I'm friends with the current Republican mayor that's going in.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking. Like,
So you may not see eye to eye with the current Republican mayor on policy, but you're friendly. You get along.
We get along.
Okay.
Right. And so I'm thinking, okay, we're both new.
Right.
The old regime wants to still hold power somehow.
Mhm.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And so now they're trying to, think that I'm just going to walk away or he's going to walk away. And I was like, that's what I was thinking.
Okay. Do you actually agree with do you agree with a lot of the policies that the current Republican mayor holds, or do you disagree, but you just get along as individuals? The way it's supposed to work, by the way. But I mean,
well, because I was never a person of party.
Right.
I want a person who's going to do the job.
Gotcha.
And I am on that as far as work concerns. I'm not hiring for just because I need a body. I'm hiring because they're organizational fit.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, that was one of my reasons of voting for the current mayor, because I thought he could do some things. We have good ideas about changing some things of how business as usual is not business as usual.
Mhm.
You may do something for 12, 13, 14 years, but doesn't mean it's right.
So you're trying to rise above party labels, and you thought that the gentleman who sits in the mayor's seat now, he's a Republican. You think he's a good man.
Right. Correct. Okay.
So is he supportive of you currently?
Well, I'm not sure where his views are right now. I do know that he understands that I'm going through some difficulty with the procedures, but I think, I don't know where he stands. Okay.
So let's fast forward a tiny bit, unless I'm missing something. So, we're at December, what did we say we were? December 17th.
December 19th.
19th. So
right.
Unless there's something that we need to cover, let's fast forward a tiny bit.
Well, we need to cover to the fact that on December 19th, when I asked our solicitor, why they're saying that I couldn't get a bond, because all we were told was I couldn't get a bond. Nobody had a copy of any documentation. Basically, it was hearsay.
So it was schoolyard almost. It was correct. We can't get a bond for you, Antoinette. Well, why can't you get a bond? Because.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because we said so.
Correct.
Because we can't.
Correct.
Okay, but why? Just because we can't.
Right. So I asked for something.
That was basically it.
Right. I asked for something in writing. I got it on December 23rd, which was vague, saying that the company that they use for insurance purposes tried the bonding agency that they use, and they said that they couldn't bond me at that time.
Did you contact that company yourself?
Yes.
And what did they tell you?
They told me, well, because I wasn't the person who originated to get the bond, they couldn't give me any information.
Gotcha.
So then I went to the solicitor and I said, well, do you mind if I go get my own bond? Because I know I can be bonded. I'm already bonded. for my
And
church.
the solicitor means that the city attorney, essentially.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
And he said, let's go for it.
So he was willing to help you.
Right.
Okay.
So after we got through the hurdle of the bond issue, the incoming mayor asked, was there anything else that I needed to do that it wouldn't be no hiccup? That's when we found out that I needed to take the tax collector test. And normally the city's supposed to provide the funding for that. That didn't happen. So on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, I end up taking the test.
And paying for it?
Paying for it, correct.
And how much did that cost?
$250.
Out of your pocket to
Out of my
take the
pocket.
test that you were required to take
Correct.
because your I'm being very sarcastic here, because your only crime was being elected by the citizens of your city.
Correct. Yes.
Did you have to pay for that out of your pocket, or were you allowed to pay for that out of campaign funds?
No, I didn't have a campaign fund thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I paid for it out of pocket.
So January 6th comes.
Yes.
You go to City
Well,
Hall.
Nope. We need to rewind back to
Oh,
that.
sorry. I can't even, we can't even get the swearing in day. There's so much stuff, Antoinette.
Right.
We can't even swearing in day.
So on
Holy
December,
cow.
So on December 30th,
Okay.
well, December 31st, I found out from the company that I went to get my bond that they had secured my bond and I was ready to go.
How much did you have to pay for the bond?
Yes, I did, out of pocket.
Out of pocket. And how much did you pay for that?
$1,800.
So $1,800 for the bond that the city said they could not secure. You secured it on the first try, no problems.
Correct.
Plus the $250 to take the test. I'm
Correct.
not a math whiz, but that puts me at $2,050, correct?
Correct.
You're the treasurer. You're the numbers person. Tell me if my math is right.
You're right.
So you're now over $2,000 out of pocket just to do the job that the majority, in fact, a significant majority of the citizens of Uniontown voted for you to do.
Yes.
Okay.
So I
Because city council, let me be clear, because city council has refused to do their end of the bargain, which is pay for these things, and not even just pay for these things, but even inform you that you needed them.
Correct.
Fair. Okay.
So December 31st, I take the test. I passed it on the first time, 100%. So then we're waiting because it's now holiday. So, I have to wait for the bond to come.
Of course.
Because they're closing early on December 31st. So they're not coming back until January. That would be January 3rd. So January 3rd, I get a copy of the bond. They send everything to the solicitor, the city attorney. Everything's a go. And he sends it over to the city hall like he's supposed to. On Saturday morning, I get a frantic text from the mayor, the new mayor going in saying, "Hey, I thought we had everything squared away with your bond." He said, "I'm hearing that a council member canceled your bond." I said, "You're hearing a council member cancel my bond?" So lo and behold, I get a text from the solicitor as well, the city attorney, saying the same thing. And I'm like, okay, nobody can cancel my bond if I pay for it.
You would think so.
Right. So on that Monday, I get up early because we're like figuring out, okay, what happened? So on Monday, I get up, I call the bond company. And the bond company tells me that the young lady who answered the phone tells me that she needs to refer me to her manager. Her exact words to me were, "What color are you?"
Blimey.
And I was like,
Is that not blatantly illegal?
that's what I would think.
If I wanted
But
if I wanted to rent you if I wanted to rent you a property, or if you came to me to rent a property, if you came to me to secure a mortgage, especially in these pandemic times, it would be illegal for me to ask you what ethnicity or skin color that you might have. So why would the bond company be allowed to ask you what ethnicity or skin color you might have?
Well, her conversation went on to say, when I told her that I was Black, she's like, that sums it up.
Oh, so she was asking you she was asking you from the standpoint of why would someone go behind your back to try to cancel your bond?
Correct.
Got you. So if you were not allowed to contact the bond company to find out why a bond could not be issued for the city on your behalf, why would the city be able to contact the bond company to inquire about a bond you were securing for yourself?
Right. That's what I like to know.
Now let me repeat that so I can bring you all along with me. Audience, for everyone, you will recall earlier in this conversation, again, it was only not a half hour ago, Antoinette told you, the city of Uniontown told her the bond company would not issue a bond to the city for Antoinette in her duly elected position. When she contacted the bond company to try to clear that up, in what would be considered, I guess, the financial equivalent of a HIPAA law, they couldn't discuss it with her. But yet the bond company appears to have discussed with the city a bond that you took out yourself on yourself,
right,
directly with the bond company.
Correct.
And the customer, we'll call her an agent, I guess you call her an agent, the bond agent for the bond company, kind of answered your question for you before you ever asked it.
Right.
And says, so you're a woman of color. Okay, now everything sort of makes sense. So did you ever end up securing the bond?
Yes.
Okay. So the bond company comes through. You paid. Yeah. They take whatever objections or whatever the city might have put up in the way. They put that aside. You paid. They continue with the bond.
Right.
So you are now bonded. It's January 3rd, of 2021. You are bonded.
I was bonded before then, but they canceled my bond on January 3rd. So on January 6th, when I made the call, I was not bonded because of the councilman actually calling the bond company. Now they got my bond from the city at 4:00 in the afternoon. At 5:00 on January 3rd, he was on the phone with the bond company telling them that the city would not accept my bond and that they needed to look in my background. Now, mind you, before you issue a bond, they do already do the background check. I was issued a bond on January 3rd. I have a copy of it, what was sent to me on January 3rd. Based on the conversation that they had with the councilman, they revoked my bond based on what he must have had said. And then the solicitor on Monday writes them an email saying, you can't take third-party information that is not true and revoke somebody's bond.
Antoinette, I think it's really important at that point. Jeff, that think about this. The city councilor on his own recognizance went and called the bond company with his own hearsay, no providing no evidence of anything. And who was he to Antoinette to do that? Who is he as a city official? Who is he to take upon that? This was also the man that called her a colored girl too. Why don't you tell him that and tell the name of that city councilor, because we're going to call him out too.
Yeah. So Mr. Martin Gaddy is a city councilman who called the bond saying that he was authorized by the council or by the city to revoke my bond.
And was there any documentation of that, Antoinette?
No.
Okay.
No. And the reality was,
Antoinette, you do not work for the bond company. Let's just be clear about that. But why would the bond company even be taking a call from the councilman to accept changes or do anything to a bond that you are paying for out of your pocket on yourself? It seemed again. I'm
So
not being a CPA, not being a treasurer, not being I had enough problems with math.
right.
2 and 2 is 5 to me occasionally. It certainly sounds like in this case, there's a lot of 2 and 2 is 5 in this. But the only thing that I can the only analogy I can make, I'm getting angry and I'm tripping over my own words now, is HIPAA, our healthcare laws.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman could not call, if you go to a doctor's visit and you discuss a health issue, the councilman could not call your doctor, or you schedule a procedure, you schedule a test, it's an MRI, you schedule a biopsy, or fill in the blank. The councilman couldn't call and cancel that test for you. There's privacy laws for that.
Correct.
Why could the councilman call the bonding company and cancel something that you were in contact with the company for directly and you were paying for it?
Correct.
Why do you have any idea why that happened?
No.
Or how it happened, or how it was allowed to happen?
No.
Did you call up the food chain of the bonding company into the management of the bonding company to say, why the hell did you let this happen?
Right. And there was an email from the bond company saying that to the agent who actually canceled the bond based on talking to Mr. Gaddy, like, how did this happen? And I'm hoping the person who canceled the bond in the first place gets his due, because you don't do stuff like that.
Right. My goodness. Well, we're just scratching the surface. It's 6 p.m.
Exactly.
And don't worry, Carmina's loaded for bear. I can see Carmina's, the steam is rising on Carmina over there. I can see it. We're not ignoring
because
you,
we're
Carmina.
almost 2 years later. We're a year and a half later. And I came in after a year and a half, and there's so much more.
Well, we're working through it. We're working through it chronologically for the folks that are
great. Thank you.
Trying to lay the price. We're trying to lay out the story. I'm not ignoring you. Trust me. We're just trying to lay the story out. 6 p.m. daylight savings time. For anybody who may not have changed the clocks at home, daylight savings time. If it says 5 o'clock somewhere in your house, it's not. It's 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Eastern time, daylight savings time here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is the Kennedy Effect for the 14th of March, 2021. We are in the midst, I would say in the middle, but I don't feel like we're in the middle. I think we're somehow just, even after an hour, we're in the beginning somehow of what is a truly extraordinary story of power, abuse of power, hiding facts, breaking the law, and sadly, race in a small town in Pennsylvania. And we're getting through it as we are. Wherever you are watching on Facebook, we shared the program this week to almost 90 different places across the Facebook universe. Wherever you are watching on Facebook, stay right where you are if you wish. Enjoy, listen in the background, watch, stay there, enjoy it. We appreciate you. Every single individual who watches or listens to this program, the audio, the video, both. We appreciate you wherever you fall on the political spectrum, whatever you might look like, however old you are. We appreciate every single one of you. You are welcomed here and you are respected here. If you would like to come and join the chat, which is pretty angry, I got to be honest, there's a lot of angry folks who feel for Antoinette and are diving into this story. You can come to right on your screen. You see it right there. The home group Facebook page for all things having to do with this program. That other side of information. Come into the comments section. Let us know what you think. You will be able to ask questions there. Share your thoughts. Let us know what you're thinking. You'll be able to ask questions of Antoinette if you don't feel like calling the program. Put your questions in there. Put your comments in there. We will share them. Put your comments and questions in there. Carmina is actually responding to people in there. There's an active back and forth going on in the comment section right now. That other side of information on Facebook, the home Facebook page for this program. You're taking in the audio via hot101.net, literally around the globe. To the listeners of hot101.net in Australia, New Zealand, Central and South America, dotted around Europe and in Canada. Thank you so much, every single one of you, for being part of this program and allowing us onto your devices, in your homes, your cars, your smart speakers, however it is that you consume hot101.net. If you have never listened to hot101.net, you should be. And programs like this will be growing and expanding the talk part of the hot101.net universe. We are proud to be part of one of the originators of global internet radio, hot101.net. You can listen to hot101.net on the home website page at hot101.net. Get the Apple app at the Apple App Store, get the Android app at the Google Play Store, or if you have the TuneIn radio app, go to the search bar and type in hot101.net and you can listen to us there. The Kennedy Effect can be found in so many different places. There's so many ways that you can interact with the program, send questions, comments, show suggestions. That's actually how Carmina brought this to my attention. Well, we happen to know each other personally. She got in through the back door. She didn't go through the public places. We know each other. But this is a good thing. So you can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. It also means if you want to advertise on the program, that's the way to get a hold of us. You can tweet the program. We are on Twitter at @ThatKennedyTalk. If you've missed any of tonight's program and you don't want to miss any of tonight's program, you can go back to what has become our repository, our library of all things for the show, all episodes, full episodes of the show. You won't miss a single thing by going to our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. You can find us on Instagram at That Other Side of Information. Show announcements and short rants can be found on TikTok, That Other Side of Information, and the Patreon page, patreon.com/That Other Side of Information. And I will be putting the phone number up shortly. You will be able to dial into the program and speak to me and our guests and ask questions. You would notice that I normally put the phone number up right now in the second hour of the program, but I'll be putting it up a little bit shortly. I'm trying to hang out till we get all the way through the story before we open up the phone line. I have a feeling if this story and this program doesn't generate phone calls, then I might just give up on phone calls. I'm never giving up on phone calls. Don't take that for the gospel truth. I'm never giving up on phone calls. But if we don't get phone calls this week, I don't know what it's going to take. But anyway, let's get back to our guest, Antoinette Hodge, the duly elected treasurer of the city of Uniontown, and our friend and second or third time on the program now. I think I've lost track. But we welcome her back, our friend, the most important title or at least most important title to me, my friend, Carmina Taylor. So Antoinette, are we able to get to swearing in day now?
Okay, yes.
So swearing in day, January 6, 2021, you put on some good clothes, get yourself together, you proceed to City Hall to be sworn in. What happens?
They tell me that they have a program together and my name's not on the program. Even though the bond was already, we had the bond, the solicitor had the bond, everything. The law states, which we're a third municipal, that if I didn't have a bond on the day of swearing in, I still was supposed to be sworn in and had 14 days, no, 21 days, I'm sorry, to secure a bond. However, I already had a bond that Mr. Gaddy called
Okay.
the bond company to
So you
revoke.
Okay. But you secured it.
Yes.
So we get
Yep.
to January 6th.
So-
You have a bond. At this point, there's nothing in the city charter or not being an expert in state law, but there's nothing in state law that's keeping you from being sworn in at this point.
Correct.
And what happens?
I'm not on the program to be sworn in.
What does I'm assuming
So
you begin to ask around.
No, so
What
prior
happened?
prior to me finding out that Mr. Gaddy did what he did, I contacted a lawyer because I'm thinking, okay, I need a lawyer to come and figure out why these people had the right to do what they had to do. So I ended up hiring a lawyer. He came that night and he questioned Mr. Gaddy on the floor of why he got involved with my bond. And the room was packed with a lot of residents who asked for Mr. Gaddy's resignation. And council or the current mayor did nothing.
And who is your lawyer? He probably deserves a shout
Joe
out here.
Sanson. He's from Pittsburgh. Joe Sanson,
And where is he from?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Very good law firm, very good. He asked,
Very reputable,
Mhm.
very well known.
he asked him, who gave him the right to get involved with my bond. And, based on the law that I should be still sworn in, and council refused to do it.
Were you sworn in by the end of the night?
No.
Let me dip into some of the uncomfortable questions. What is the racial makeup of the crowd that night?
50-50. 50-50.
What is the racial makeup of Uniontown as a whole?
There's only
I know exactly. I know it by the back of my hand. So here's what's so significant to me. 20% of the population is Black. When you add biracial, Latinx, and Asian, you're up to 28% of the population being of color.
But that particular night, we're talking about a 50-50 mix.
Yes, because like a lot of my friends and family had came out to be there for it.
Right, because they wanted to support you and they wanted to see the occasion.
Correct. Yeah.
Sure, it's an event. Let's be honest, it's an event. They want to see one of their own get
Yes.
sworn into a position, a political office, a position of power. I would too.
Correct.
If I lived there and I had voted for you, I probably would have gone myself. Sure.
Mhm.
So
Right. So
the folks that are sitting at the front of the room, if your council chambers looks anything like most council chambers looks like, you have a rows of either what look like church pews or folding chairs, and you have a front row of tables or a dais. What do the folks who are sitting on the dais look like?
well, I think the mayor, because he was new, he was like confused. The solicitor was like unbelievable because he's the one who helped me make sure I had the bond. And the other councilmen were just sitting there.
Did they
and
look shocked?
the
Did they
racial-
look
when the
awkward, angry?
it was
What did
awkward. Well, no, because when the racial stuff came out, was this a Black or white issue, and what was the problem? One of the councilmen was like, "Oh, I have a Black grandbaby. I don't, I have a Black grandbaby." And then, And somebody in the crowd was like, well, if you have a black grandbaby, what's the baby's name? Why do you have to say it's a black grandbaby? So the racial tension was high. And it was not just African Americans, black folks, it was white folks who were mad too.
Well,
Like,
because
unbelievable.
the fact that the percentage of folks who are not white in Uniontown is 28%, and you received obviously way more than 28% of the vote, presupposes that white folk voted for you too.
Yeah.
And they want to see you seated as well because they voted for you.
Correct.
And they're angry too.
Mhm.
How quickly? So that night, ironically, it's the 6th of January, by the way. A small other racial event happened on the 6th of January as well, as we both know, in the nation's capital. And let's be honest, that was a racial event. So that tension is already flowing through the country as we watched an insurrection happen at the nation's capital. So I think some racial tensions were already inflamed.
Well, this was actually
in
January
2020.
2020.
Oh, this is the 20th. Wait,
Yeah.
I thought
This
you
is
were getting,
over a year ago.
yeah, but I thought you were getting sworn in on the.
That was the 6th of 2020. She got elected and was certified in November of 2019. They really blocked her from being
Oh,
sworn
I'm a
in
whole
in
year
January.
off. I was a whole year ahead.
Yes.
My goodness, I've been a whole year ahead this whole time.
No, this is last year, Jeff.
So, well, don't I look stupid? But that's
No, you don't. No, you don't,
normal.
because
I
it's
do that a lot.
unbelievable.
See, I don't even need help for that. So, how quickly did the folks in the room begin to think to themselves, there's a racial component to this?
Very quickly.
How quickly did you begin to think there's a racial component to this?
Well, when I talked to the bonds people that morning on January 6th, and the young lady asked me what color I was, and I'm thinking, why is she asking me that color? And then when she says it sums it up, it's like, okay, what does that mean? You know, and she was like, well, I'm gonna wait till my manager comes in and then he can call you. And then when the manager did call me back, I had the current mayor on the phone with the conversation. And the bondsman said that Mr. Gaddy called and said that he was the director of accounts and finance, and that the council had decided not to have my bond enforced. And they weren't going to recognize my bond.
What party affiliation is Mr. Gaddy?
Democrat.
And what part, just to remind everyone, what party affiliation are you?
Democrat.
So this is not, which again lends itself to the idea that this is a racial issue. You are a member of the Democratic Party. You ran as a Democratic member. You were elected as a member of the Democratic Party. You will and are holding office as a member of the Democratic Party. Mr. Gaddy is a member of the Democratic Party.
Correct.
The current mayor is a Republican.
Correct.
There are 3 other council members, am I correct?
They're all Democrat.
So the mayor is a Republican. All 4 council members are members of the Democratic Party.
Correct.
What is the current breakdown as far as support in that governing body for you, as to the best of your knowledge? You said you had a relationship with the mayor. Obviously, Mr. Gaddy is trying to bury you. What about the other 3?
I have a relationship with one other, and his term's up, so he's really not been around to. I think he got frustrated and fed up, because he's the one who alerted us that Mr. Gaddy had called the bonds people on January 3rd.
Do you have any support in the current structure of the city government? Is anyone inside the city government trying to help you fulfill the full job description of your office?
No,
Say that again.
no.
Let me ask you one more time. And I know that there's some dots that we have to fill in here because you went to court in the whole 9 yards, but I want to get this out since I asked. And I did skip ahead a little bit. I should not have done that, but I did skip ahead a little bit. Is there anyone, you have a relationship with one other council member, you have a relationship with the mayor, is there anyone in the current structure of the government of the city of Uniontown, the 4 council members, mayor, controller, solicitor, clerk, dog catcher, school board, anybody that supports you and wants to see you or is helping you fulfill the full job description of your office?
No,
Is there anyone inside that structure that I just laid out? Are any of them people of color?
no,
Are you the only duly elected, legally elected, openly elected, regardless of party?
Right.
Are you the only elected person in the governmental structure of the city of Uniontown of color?
yes. I'm the only one.
School board as well?
Wait, can I say
School board.
something? Because that's where I would like to come in. There are
Please.
no blacks on the fire department. There are no blacks on the police department. No blacks on the school board. There's 50 city employees and only 3 are black that are not elected. And the issue for me in terms of the We Can't Wait coalition is that any community in Pennsylvania that has a population like Uniontown or Washington or Johnstown and their civic government, there should be some reflection of the people that they're serving. In my experience of working with Antoinette, and my interaction with two of the people from city government, there's not even an air of willingness to try to engage people that don't look like them. That has been my experience so far. So I think it's very important to point out she is the only Black woman in the midst of all these civic workforce, city government paid jobs. She's the only Black elected official. The school district, 20% of the school district is Black, but 64% of the Black students only graduate. This school district is on a warning list with the State Department of Education because they have failed to bring the Black students to a percentage of the graduation rate that meets the basic bottom line standard for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So the students don't have support.
So there's no one in the current structure of the government there that is helping you, Antoinette?
No.
How did you finally get sworn in?
My attorney filed a lawsuit in the federal courts, and the judge ruled that they had no business stopping me from being sworn in.
Let me back up there. Why did you have to file, or why did you choose to file? Again, I'm not a lawyer either, and I don't play one on the radio. Why did you file in federal court and not in Commonwealth court?
Because I'm not sure why he went federal, because I guess because it is a federal issue, because it's with the state. So they're not following the state rules as far as what the municipal code says for the 3rd municipal class.
So did you sue the city of Uniontown or did you sue the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
City of Uniontown.
Well, that's an interesting one. I would have thought you would have sued in Commonwealth court, but perhaps we didn't feel, he's the lawyer.
I don't think that's jurisdiction. So at that point, go ahead, tell them what date you ended up getting sworn in.
January 13th,
Of
2020.
2020.
2020.
Yes. And
How-
from January 2020, being sworn in, I have been prevented from doing the job that I've been elected to do.
Why
And
hasn't,
who's been, can I ask her a question, John, Jeff, to
please,
share with
please,
the
please.
audience? Because it's so important at this juncture. So you finally get sworn in, you're legally sworn in, you've already paid for the bond, you've already taken the test. What are some basic things that the treasurer is supposed to oversee that you have been unable to do since you got sworn in 426 days ago?
So I have never worked on the budget. They had budget meetings, they did audit meetings without me. Basically, all they want me to do is collect the taxes and deposit. I'm not allowed to review any of the bills. All they want me to do is sign checks without seeing any backup to reviewing the bills. It's the list.
And so who's been doing some of those responsibilities? Who's been monitoring the budget? Who's been handling the budget? And who's been handling the audit reports above you?
The city clerk,
And what's the city clerk's name?
Kim Marshall.
So Jeff, a paid city employee is overruling an elected official in her specific job description since January 13th.
of 2020?
And this is the same individual on the night of January 6th tried to attack me in the hallway.
The
And
city
council
clerk,
did nothing.
Jeff,
Is this a direct violation of the city charter of Uniontown?
Yes.
and I might add, because I've had to do research, Jeff, it is a direct violation of Act 67, Chapter 114, which has all of the code classifications of every aspect of what a city treasurer in a third-class city status is supposed to do.
So
There is a law that
so-
says bit by bit what she's supposed to do, and the city council, the
So the-
mayor, and the
the-
city clerk have ignored it. I'm sorry, Jeff, I'm getting
the
hyped.
state the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the city of Uniontown is what is described as a Class 3 municipality.
Correct.
Inside that description, for the folks at home, I know we're getting a little wonky here, but kind of hang with us. This is important. And especially if you're listening in a different country, I know that this gets a little wonky, but hang in there with us. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania describes different municipalities throughout our Commonwealth in different ways, and they're based on size and population and geography and so on and so on.
Yes.
Uniontown is what is described as a Class 3, not third class. I
Oh,
don't
did
think we
I
wanna-
say
I don't think we want to put it that way. I don't think we want to put it that way, but they are a Class 3 municipality. And I am not
Yes.
going to pretend to tell you that I know the difference between these different class distinctions. I don't. But let us try to simplify it here. Inside that description of a Class 3 municipality are the job descriptions of the different elected offices. In fact, when I had the opportunity to speak to Antoinette last night on the phone in our pre-interview, the council mayor structure that they happen to have in Uniontown, to me, is completely foreign. It makes no sense to me. There are 4 council people, which makes an even number. There's no executive legislative breakdown. There's 5 people on the board. One of them happens to hold the distinction of mayor, which means that I guess, the 4 of them vote. I don't know if the mayor is the tiebreaker or whatever, because you have to have an odd number of votes or else you can have tie votes all the time. So that's a different structure. We don't even have it here in Hellertown, and we don't even have 10,000 people in Hellertown. So there's that. So, and we have 5 council people in Lower Saucon. It's in Lower Saucon isn't the same size as Uniontown. So it's just a different bird. That said, the city of Uniontown is, and this is a half question, half statement. The ladies, either of you can jump in on it when I get through it. The city of Uniontown is currently, has been for over a year and a half, knowingly, wantedly, publicly breaking Commonwealth law, denying you the abilities to do your job, and other city officials are doing your job for you, again, in direct and open violation of state statute. Am I correct?
She's not a she's not an elected official. She's a hired employee.
She's doing your job function in direct, open violation of the law.
Correct.
Okay. When you break the law, generally speaking, even in the northernmost Confederate state of Pennsylvania, you go to law enforcement agencies. Has the city solicitor, or is there a district attorney in the city of Uniontown?
Yes.
What has he said?
Nothing.
He or she?
They sit quietly and say nothing.
Is there a district attorney in the county of Fayette?
Yes. Sits
What has
quietly and says nothing.
There is a district attorney in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He happens to have rather large political ambitions. What has he said?
Nothing.
I assume you have contacted and had conversations with all 3 of these levels of district attorney. What have they said to you?
I have not gotten a return call back from
Any. What has any elected official, the state rep, the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives for your district, the Pennsylvania State Senator for your district, the United States House of Representatives for your district, the United States Senate, the governor, lieutenant governor, fill in the blank. Has anyone in any elected official capacity in your area, which is what you would do, you would obviously contact your local elected officials first, local meaning the ones that represent you, even if they're federal officials. Has anyone done anything to help you?
No.
Why do you believe that is? Carmina, why do you believe that is?
Antoinette, do you want to answer first or me?
You can. Well, my thing is that they're just sitting back. You know, we have Republicans who are watching Democrats fall and fail, and so nobody is. You know, it's just like, okay, well, she got her seat. You know, and that's what I'm thinking. When they realized that I got my seat on January 13th, everybody was like, oh, okay, everything's going to be peachy and dory. No, it's not peachy and dory. And so they still haven't even checked up to say, hey, everything going all right? Do you need any help? Nothing.
Exactly, Jeff. So that's it. I think that it didn't pick up enough.
Let me ask you this. All of these officials, the Commonwealth Attorney General, are 2 United States senators. Well, one of them anyway. One of them. Anyway. I don't know who I'm a tad embarrassed to admit I don't know who the U.S. House rep is from that area. all of the elected officials that I've named, I can't assume they are all racists.
Right.
Why do you believe, and I don't believe that you believe that either.
Right.
Why do you believe that no one has helped Antoinette?
Are you asking Carmina?
I'm asking you, Carmina.
So I personally think that it just had not picked up enough steam and attention. I think that last year in itself, we were in such a heightened mode with all the other national stuff going on and all the stuff that's going on with the state. This just did not register on their priority list. That's what I believe. I think I just believe it just didn't pick up enough steam. So if we could fast forward, because I think what's relevant was behind saying this is, think about me finding out about this 3 weeks ago and realizing that no one has helped her in an elected capacity. I don't blame them. I just think that we were just in a different mode. And so what we did, Jeff, is we put together coalition partners across the state. Some of us from the Southeast chartered a small bus, and we went to Uniontown on March 4th. And we went there to raise awareness of the fact that there's racial disparities in all levels of their civic work, civic workforce, and especially what has happened to Antoinette. And as a result of that, we were able to make the front page of the paper last week. And that stirred up the local atmosphere. Am I right, Antoinette?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So as a result of us having the front page of the paper, hard copy, not the digital version, a few hours after the publication, the city council had the solicitor issue a statement basically saying that they had never discriminated, they had not discriminated against Antoinette, that they have a diverse and inclusive environment in their city. And then they also said that I misled them in the nature of the rally. Now, when I found out about Antoinette's story, I went on their city website to find a permit to have a rally in front of City Hall. There was no permit process. There was no form. There was nothing electronically to facilitate that process. So the next day, that Monday, I vigorously attempted to call Kim Marshall, the city clerk, to see how I could get approved to have a rally. And I explained to them that the We Can't Wait Coalition was making a statement about a rural initiative that we wanted to share. I also told them that Uniontown was literally picked up out of a hat of small cities that we wanted to venture into. So I didn't mislead them because all those things kind of happened. What ended up happening is I got the runaround for about 5 hours. The city clerk moved me to the licensing clerk. The licensing clerk said she had never done anything like this. I had to talk to the chief of police. Then I had to talk to the solicitor. And it wasn't until Tuesday morning where I was very consistent in saying, look, you guys have approved me verbally, but I want to have something in writing to say that it was okay for us to come. So I got the email Tuesday morning. And where we sit right now is that we're not done. We've made waves, we've raised awareness. People in our coalition across the state are avid supporters now of Antoinette. We are going to send a press statement out tomorrow to all of our state officials, our congressional officials, and all types of media outlets, because enough is enough. The day that we came was a city council meeting. Antoinette was supposed to make a treasurer's report. The city clerk removed her off the agenda. So as of just 2 weeks ago, she was still being disrespected by the city clerk and not allowing her to fulfill her duty of presenting a treasurer's report. Now, what's interesting, Jeff, is that after the response after the article came out in the paper, all of a sudden, Antoinette got the budget electronically and then delivered to her in person. All of a sudden, she got the audit report. Now she's been sitting in that position for over a year, not having those documents. So I reached out to the solicitor and I said, listen, I did not mislead anybody. And we want to address the comments you put in your response. And so initially he said, sure, let me reach out to the city councilors. Let's try to make something work. So I tried to negotiate a meeting for the following week, which was last week. And he said, no, we're too busy. I'm too busy. I have no space in my schedule. I said, okay. So I gave him a list of hours of spans of time for the week of this week, 15th to the 19th. I touched base with him last Tuesday, last Thursday, and Friday, and they didn't respond. So now we have to go to a whole nother level of awareness, consciousness, and action. That's the bottom line. And we want people to understand how important her story is. I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
And what is that next?
So what we're calling for is, I'm sorry, Jeff. I'm sorry. What did you say?
It's the delay. Don't worry about it. It's going to keep happening. It's the tiny bit of, internet delay. What is that next level of action in your mind?
Well, we're going to call for we're asking for everyone across the state to join us in communicating to the city council, to the mayor, that we want Martin Gotti to be dealt with. We want a resignation for Kim Marshall, since she has violated the law. We want all of her rights restored immediately. We want her to be able to exercise the law, which has been fashioned for her in that position. And we're going to continue until we get it. And one of the other things that we're going to do in the meantime is plan for a statewide rally in Uniontown. And right now we're positioning that for Sunday, May 16th in Uniontown, undisclosed location right now. But we're doing it to raise consciousness, because the coalition is basically saying, we're not going to stand for this. In Uniontown, in Johnstown, in Washington, in Greene County, in Beaver County, we're standing up, because we have to start sending a message that if people are locally elected, they should be able to exercise their full rights. And if people are preventing them to exercise the law, they need to be held accountable. So the next level is to keep raising state, local, and national awareness of the issue, call for resignations, call for Mr. Gotti to step down, and for Antoinette to be able to do her job without any obstructions.
This is a very speculative question, Carmina, and it might not be fair. And if you don't think it's fair, then please don't answer. Give yourself that latitude. But because I'm flat out asking you to speculate.
Okay.
If what is still, and folks, please, I beg you to keep in mind, wherever you're listening around the globe, wherever you're listening across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, this is still currently actively happening to Antoinette. The story is not over. This is an active, currently happening story. So Carmina, again, I'm asking you to speculate a little bit. It may be unfair of me to do so. If what is happening to Antoinette was happening in Harrisburg, Scranton, Wilkesboro, Hazleton, Easton, Bethlehem, Allentown, Philadelphia, Erie, State College. Is it your belief that this would have been A, much more well publicized, and B, probably solved by now?
No and no, because all of those communities are still having some variety of racial discrimination. I think that unfortunately, because of where we are in terms of social media platforms and things going viral, there's a lot of these pocketed stories. That's why I formulated this coalition. So I think it's existing all around. But what has happened in the past is that people never congregated and collated and shared stories and built support from one another. So no, because it happens in Philadelphia, it happens in Montgomery County. It's just that we have to start building bridges and alliances from people outside of those communities. And what was the second part, Jeff? And I meant no one.
No, I'm just curious if you, because I have to say, I think I might respectfully disagree with you. I think if this was happening in a, and again, look, you and I, look, we're both on video. I don't look like you. I grew up in a completely different way. I didn't live your experiences. I can't say that I understand them. So I'm coming from a position of ignorance.
Okay.
I've learned from you. I learned from all of my brothers and sisters of color. We've grown up in different ways. I don't have the experiences to draw off of that you have, but I have to think that one of the contributing factors in this is that it's Uniontown. People just don't pay attention to Uniontown.
Well, that too, of course, it's a much smaller town than Erie or State College. But you know, there's been 3 deaths between Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, State College, and in Lancaster City, where Black men were killed having mental health crises. Those are issues locally, but has it made national news? No. Are people, and in Monroe County, I just got an ask to be part of a rally that was happening today about that Asian man. That made national news. But the reality is we have severe racist pockets in Pennsylvania, all over, in every county. Uniontown is a small county. Nobody has paid real attention to it. And that's why we really feel that we need to. Because I've been in some of these small towns and I've heard the stories and the plights of people that have lived in these small towns that are either transient in some of these small towns, and they have no advocate. They have no fighter. And most people, what I've noticed that have lived there for a long time, are sometimes fearful or reluctant to dive in. I don't have nothing to lose, but to restore her dignity and respect.
And maybe that's good timing for that question, Antoinette. Why not just walk away? Why not just say, you know what, it's just not worth it?
Absolutely not.
Oh, listen, I agree. Listen, in the extremely short time that you and I have known each other, and I'm talking literally 24 hours, you're not that kind of person, and nor am I trying to suggest that you are. But for the sake of the discussion, for the sake of the audience trying to understand what it is that you're going through, why not just say, you know what, the heck with this. This is, you know what, screw this. Why not just walk away?
Because I was elected by the people, and they obviously had enough trust and enough enthusiastic behind me to want me to do this. And so I don't turn. I'm not turning around. I'm going straight forward. And so I will not step down. I'm going straight forward because the people of Uniontown wants me to serve. Now, the reality is that it's time, election time's coming. And they need to make a stand to get the people out that are not really for Uniontown.
Are there elections in Uniontown this year, 2021?
Yes.
And who is up for election in Uniontown this cycle?
Marty Gaddy and Joby Palumbo. They're both councilmen.
Are you up for election this cycle?
Nope. 2024.
2024. So are you actively campaigning in this cycle?
For me?
Do they have opponents? Are you seeking opponents? Are you helping those opponents?
Well, I can't, as an elected official, I'm not allowed to endorse or anybody.
Okay.
However, there are some people who are of color that are running for one's for city council, Reverend Vincent Winfrey Sr. And then we have a young man, Mr. Mickens, who's running for district district magistrate. And we've never had anyone of color in the district magistrate position. And those people who did serve on city council, I think they were appointed, but I don't think they were elected. We did have an African-American guy who did, but that was many years ago.
One of our viewers, Laura, in the chat asks, Antoinette, are you currently being paid? I assume treasurer has a salary attached to it. Are you being paid?
Yes, I am.
But Jeff, she makes less money than the city clerk.
Are you being paid the same amount as the previous treasurer?
Yes.
So they're not denying you that, at least. And although, given the rest of the story, it wouldn't shock me.
Well, what they did with him, because they said he wasn't a working treasurer, all the cost of living raises that everybody was supposed to get, they didn't give it to him for 8 years because he wasn't a working treasurer. So I'm the lowest. So I'm the lowest treasurer throughout the whole county and probably the state.
Is Uniontown the largest municipality in Fayette?
Yes. We're one of them. Yes.
What is the current state of the Democratic Party in Uniontown?
There's a split. So we have two parties, two different chairs. One's the New Dems, and then there's the regular Democratic Party.
And which of those entities is supporting you?
The New Dems.
And the establishment corporate wing of the party is saying that you should not have been sworn in? Or what is their position?
Well, no, they all didn't understand why they did not swear me in. So that was a big thing on election day of January 6th. I mean, of the oath of office day, because clearly there was a bunch of people in the room that knew what the law states, that if I didn't have a bond on the day of my oath of office, I had 21 days from that date to get one. However, I had one, and Mr. Gaddy wouldn't have interfered in it, and he didn't pay for it. So I don't know why thought he had the right to act on behalf of the city of Uniontown.
So obviously the establishment wing of the party, it would seem to me through circumstantial evidence at a minimum, the establishment wing of the party doesn't want you there, period. As I would assume Mr. Gaddy is a member of the establishment wing. So are they just sort of, from a public point of view, trying to say, oh, we don't understand what's going on with Antoinette. We don't agree with any of this. But then again, they're not doing anything to help you either.
Right. They're not doing anything. And I'm not even sure if he participates with them. That's one of the things around here is that people are part of the parties, but they don't participate.
So then why has the party split? Has it split over this issue?
No, they've been split for a while.
And
Over some other stuff.
But yet you still get people elected.
Yes.
Is there any part of this story? Is there any part of this story that's not a complete bloody mess? Sure as hell doesn't seem like it.
No,
I gotta be honest. There's not a single part of this that does not sound like a complete crap show. I gotta be honest.
Antoinette,
Right,
Antoinette,
yes.
there was a question in the chat box earlier, and I didn't know, and I wanted to see if you could answer it. Have you been reimbursed by the city council for the fees that you paid for the tax collecting test or your bond?
Just for my bond.
Okay, good.
Well, at least that was the bigger.
Well, that was a question.
That was the bigger bill.
Yeah,
I mean,
just for my bond. And I had to, And Solicitor Witt made sure that was taken care of.
Why do you suppose the solicitor, as we listen to this story, and this might be an unfair question, I would love to speak to the solicitor. I'll have to effort that as we move forward.
I have his contact information for you, Jeff.
Why? It seems to me that the solicitor has tried to help you, Antoinette. It seems to me he's tried to help you.
Mhm.
Why do you suppose he has not done more? Why do you suppose he has not stood in front of this council and because this would be part of his job. He is the legal counsel. He is the legal representative of the government, and said, you are all breaking the law and it must stop. I mean, at this point, if you had the financial wherewithal, it would be Antoinette Town and not Uniontown anymore. Why has he not? And I kind of know the answer, because I would suspect they would fire him and just find somebody else. But at some point, doesn't someone have to stand up? And it would seem to me that it would be the solicitor, and say, folks, you're breaking the law. You are breaking and violating our city charter. You are breaking and violating Commonwealth law. It is a literal matter of time before the Attorney General's office or the Department of State comes here and clears you all out.
I don't know.
I suppose I'm
what he's
asking
feeling
you.
or how he's thinking.
I suppose I'm putting you in his brain, and it does sound like he's tried to help you, but isn't it
Yeah, I
incumbent?
think
Isn't
you
it
can
incumbent
advise
upon
people
him?
to do right, but you can advise people. Like, my attorney can advise me to do something right, and at the end of the day, I can do how I want to do.
Yeah.
And all he can say is he advised me.
Mhm.
As long as he got that in writing that he advised, and whether they followed suit or did whatever they wanted to do, at the end of the day, he did advise them.
That's a fair answer. I guess I hadn't thought of it that way, and that's a fair answer. That's a fair answer, folks. We're long. Excuse me. I'm sorry. We're well overdue for a reset of the program. I would try to wait till the top of the hour, but we're well overdue, and I will reset at the top of the hour. But let me just tell you that the phone line is open. If you have been watching over Facebook, wherever it might be that you've been watching, take a gander at the screen. The phone line is open. You can call in and speak to Antoinette, speak to Carmina, speak to me, ask a question, offer your comments, your thoughts, etc., etc., etc. The phone line to the program, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. As you know, we use a lovely little piece of software just called Google Voice. It's free. It's a singular phone line. We can take one phone call at a time. I have it here on the screen. I will see you when you ring in. You can call in, speak to Antoinette, speak to Carmina, speak to me, ask your question, offer your comment. The phone line is open. Where do we stand now, Antoinette? Are you still in court? Is there an active court case? Where are we? Are we frozen in time here? Is this just the way it's going to be for the remainder of your term? Where are we?
We're frozen we're not frozen in time. The reality is that I'm not going to stop fighting for the city of Uniontown and doing what I'm supposed to do, what I was elected to do, and what I'm bonded to do. So, it's more of we are at the draw line of, we're moving forward. And the reality is that we're not going to stop until it's done. Because I'm not only fighting for me, but I'm fighting for my nieces and my nephews, my cousins, my girlfriend's friends, my girlfriend's kids, or whatever, that may want to become public officials. So at the end of the day, it's not just about Antoinette, but it's about every young person or any person of color who wants to do something that are duly elected to do it stand firm. And I'm going to
Are
stand
you
firm.
still is the court case still active?
The one case about for my seat is over. Yes, the court case
Is there
for
a
my
court
seat is over.
case for to get sworn in? Right, but is there a court case active for you to actually do the full job description?
That's before a judge. And my attorney would
Okay.
have to, talk.
Carmina, what do you think is?
So, I mean, I think that what we have to do as Pennsylvanians, we have to stand up for Antoinette. And that's our next step in terms of the We Can't Wait Coalition. We are organizing to get everyone, white, black, blue, purple, from the Southeast to the Northwest, to all corners of the Commonwealth, to support the efforts to put pressure on the city council once and for all. They have been lawless and we need to address it. And I think that we need to come together as a Commonwealth. And that's my mission and that's my objective. We need to continue to raise awareness of her story and we need to apply pressure. By us coming in that Thursday, and we had a hybrid rally. There was people that couldn't drive. We pulled this off in a week or so to come to Uniontown, and we shook the rafters. We moved the wheel cart. They weren't expecting Antoinette to get support from people outside. And we had a microphone and people shared their thoughts from Uniontown about how they were tired of how Antoinette has been mistreated. People that heard her story from Philadelphia, from Lycoming, from Lycoming and Clearfield and Butler County and Montgomery County, they all voiced their support for Antoinette. And the city councilors could hear it because we did it right in front of where they were. And that shook them. And we need to continue to shake them. We need to continue to challenge the system. We need to continue to raise awareness that we're not going to tolerate this misbehavior in small communities across the Commonwealth. So that's what's next for us. We will be releasing something tomorrow to all print and media outlets.
Do you believe? Well, this is absolutely the kind of story that media. We could probably break into a whole different show about media itself,
right.
But this is the kind of story that media enjoys, sadly. Well, I mean, good and bad, so to speak, but it is the kind of story that they like. This is but this is a good media story, and this is a story that media will and probably should sink its teeth into. I would hope, and I would have to think that media attention is good for Antoinette and for this situation. Would you agree with that?
I firmly believe it is at this time. Absolutely. She's been suffering for far too long. She's been disrespected for far too long. It has to be addressed. And I think the people from all over the Commonwealth supporting supporting this woman, this Black woman, this happens to be Black woman that was duly elected. And you're absolutely correct, Jeff. White, Black, all people voted for Antoinette. And no, there was no contender in the general election.
Right.
She deserves to act out everything that the law says she's supposed to do, period. And we need to challenge the people that are preventing her from doing that. And we need our state and congressional elected officials to come in and support her as well, to continue to apply pressure. We're going to contact Josh's office. We're doing it everything tomorrow.
Right. And I think the problem I have with is, if it wasn't my color, then what is it?
Well, you
If
beat
this
me.
was-
You beat me to that question. That was there was like two big questions left that I was going to ask you, ladies, before I offered you the chance to head out if you wanted to. And that is, well, we had the chance to discuss last night, Antoinette, that I think that two of the places that I would seek help is the lieutenant governor's office,
Yeah.
because you had mentioned that you had not reached out to them yet.
No, I have.
And it seems to me that the Department of State, I
Yeah.
don't know if you agree, Carmina, would be a place I would reach to. The Department of State does control these things. They control elections and they control municipal codes and so on. I would reach out to both of them. This is exactly the kind of issue that seems to send Lieutenant Governor Fetterman into a real rage. Those are two places I would seek help. But you kind of beat me to it a little bit, Antoinette, but let me ask you anyway, for the sake of the discussion and for the sake of posterity and to get you on the record. Is there anything, and to play devil's advocate, I happen to already have an answer in my heart that I believe, but let me just play a little bit of devil's advocate. Is there anything in this situation, and Carmina, please feel free to answer after Antoinette if you would like. Is there anything in this situation, anything, as you go through the timeline in your head, all of the meetings, the discussions, the election, all of it, is there anything in your heart, in your gut, in your head that tells you that this is not about race?
No, there's nothing. It's about race.
It's all, at the end of the day, boils down to race.
Yep. And the sad part about it is that it's not the residents. It's a councilman. It's the councilman and his group that are not allowing the city of Uniontown to be able to prosper because of his ignorance. Because you are just a councilman. You are not the city of Uniontown and you are not the constituents. You're just a councilman who they elected to do what's right. And he's not doing what's right.
Well, I think that's a very powerful statement, and it's why that I asked you, because again, to play devil's advocate, I agree with you. I certainly do not in any way disagree with you. I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to race. But I just wanted to, Carmina, as much as you have studied and learned about this situation, from going all the way back to the primary election, the issue with the bond, the test, the tax collection test, the swearing in, the court, all of it. Is there anything in this ongoing situation that tells you that this may not be about race?
Absolutely not. The first article that was written about this situation when she wasn't able to be seated, Martin Gotti said that he didn't want any colored girls at the table. He made that public statement. But you know, Antoinette, I never asked you, who is the president of the city council?
It would be the mayor.
Okay. I didn't know if it was a dual role.
No, it would be
or a
the
singular role.
it's the mayor.
Yeah, it's an odd setup. It
really is. And
it's
so
a
again, Gotti's not even in leadership like that. And I recently read an article where Mr. Gotti was announcing his reelection, and he's touting the fact in print that he and Kim Marshall have handed budgets without tax increases. So he's already incriminating himself that he and Kim Marshall have been the influencers on the budget. That's in writing, Jeff.
Not to mention that whatever monies might be coming to Uniontown through the American Rescue Plan are going to be handled by two officials whom by law are not supposed to be handling it. That would go
Correct.
through you and the controller, I should think.
Right. Yep. And you got to understand now, there's the controller, he's new. So, I mean, he's new. The mayor's new. I'm new. So basically it's been whatever they did past practice has been what they go by. Past practice is wrong if you're not following the municipal code and you're not following any of your ordinance that you have in place.
Well, lots of things are past practice. Stoning people in the Bible is there too, and that was past practice.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, let's just be honest. It was past practice for women not to have the vote up to 100 years ago too, and we changed that. So Uniontown could be handed millions of dollars. The formula is being published. I know what municipalities are getting here in the Lehigh Valley. I don't know what Uniontown stands to receive. My guess would be, the city of Easton, which is a similar sized population, stands to gain about $2.7 million in funds from the American Rescue Plan. I would assume Uniontown is somewhere in that range, and it's about to be handed to a man who says he doesn't want a colored woman at the table.
Absolutely.
I think the population of your city has a lot to think about. What is the continuing support level from the residents, not just the citizens, but the residents of Uniontown? Do they continue to be behind you? Are council meetings still being held online? Do they flood the Zoom meetings?
There's not a Zoom meeting. There's no way for the public to even make comment during the meetings. The law requires that you're supposed to put up, because of COVID-19, that you have to publicize when you're having meetings. Those meetings are being publicized late. So the residents don't even know we're having a meeting till the day before or the day of the meeting. And they give them a window of sending in comments. If you look at the last council meeting that was held on Facebook Live on WMBS, there were people saying when they asked for public comment, the clerk said there was no public comment. And there's people on there saying, we send in emails, we have comments, we have questions, but she claims that she never got anybody's email. So
in addition to ignoring and flagrantly and openly violating city charter and Commonwealth law, you are, not you specifically, but you as a city are openly and flagrantly violating the Open Public Meetings Acts and the Sunshine Law.
Absolutely. And it's been brought up before.
And by the way, even if
the last council meeting, this was interesting. So the council meeting before, the mayor was on a radio show and he was like, oh, the next council meeting is open. Well, they decided to put a note on the door, and there was people who came to the meeting. So they were already there. And so they let them stay for the meeting. But the chief of police for this last council meeting sent us all email telling us that the meeting was closed and that in the past people have been let in for the meeting.
Here we go. We're working through it.
But basically,
little internet freeze. We're working through it. Hang on, gang. A little internet freeze. We're working through it. Everybody's having internet issues tonight. I've had internet issues tonight. And if you're watching, and especially if you're listening on 101, you'll know that we've had internet issues. 101 has reset itself, I think, twice already. We're all having internet issues tonight. So hang in there with us. I don't think this one's on us because it appears Antoinette has just frozen. So I think that's on her. I think we might. She's in the participants room. I think she's having some internet issues on her own.
Mm-hmm.
So Carmina, what is this something in your actions and your calls to action in your interactions with the Uniontown government in the protesting and meetings and so on that you'll be active in, that you'll be bringing up? I mean,
Absolutely. We
the-
have a 2-week plan.
this doesn't sound like a municipality, Carmina. This doesn't sound like a municipality so much as a kingdom.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, one of the other things is that there's nepotism. The city clerk is the daughter-in-law of the former mayor. Her husband works for city government. I mean, there's just so much infiltration of nepotism as well. And again, what I plan to do on our website this week is I'm going to post the article that was in the paper and their response. And I think when they were pushed to the grill, when we wanted to meet with them, we could dispute everything that they said in their response. This woman has not been able to do her job, and they're saying they haven't discriminated against her at all. But yet later in that day of last Friday, they delivered the budget and the audit, which they hadn't done before. I have an email approval that I was having a rally to announce a rural initiative. They said I misled them. I did not mislead them. They even had a police officer videotape us from the parking garage 3 flights up from where the city hall was. And when I asked the police, because I was stunned, I asked him what he was doing. He said, I'm here because I can be here. That was a police officer talking to me. And I ended up speaking to the chief of police. And he's like, well, because he didn't really cuss at you or swear at you, he really didn't do anything bad. But it was disrespectful. So we are very cognizant that this has been an ongoing issue, and we are determined, and we're going to be relentless in pursuing vindication for Antoinette and the Uniontown residents that voted for her to do her job. She seems to be back. I have a Zoom call at 7:30, Jeff, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, you ladies, you have given me plenty of time. I'm going to leave you be at this point. There seems to be a time in the last several weeks where the internet is getting wonky for everybody. In fact, 101 is resetting itself again. I don't understand what's going on with this internet anymore. But I will allow you ladies to please go and enjoy your Sunday evenings. I'm very, very thrilled that you were with us for this long, 2.5-ish hours, two and a quarter. What am I at? Yeah, 2.25 hours. I will leave you to your Sunday evenings. Just before you go, is there anything that we did not get to cover, or something that we covered, a thought that we did not get to complete? Is there contact information
Yes.
where people can continue to join the effort, follow the story, anything that you want to get out to either of you? I'll open let me start with Carmina.
So
first.
Definitely, I want everyone to go on to We Can't Wait PA Statewide Coalition. We'll be making an announcement tomorrow, and we'll have instructions for people. I also told people to email me so I can provide them with what we're going to be doing for the next 2 weeks. It's in the chat box, but you can email me at Carmina, CARMINA.A.Taylor, TAYLOR, gmail.com. And I'm really imploring on everyone that's listening and everyone who ends up hearing this video that you join us in this effort to stand for justice for Antoinette, because we have to send a message in this small town so we can send a message to everyone else in Pennsylvania that we're not going to tolerate this blatant discriminatory practices, this racist attack on my girl, and anyone else that has been marginalized and they're duly elected. So We Can't Wait Coalition on Facebook, and my email address.
And that's the We Can't Wait Pennsylvania Statewide Coalition?
Yes, sir.
I just looked it up. So I want to make sure I got the right one. I just looked it up I managed to squeeze that in my ever increasingly limited freaking internet. I don't swear on this program, but this internet keeps screwing with me. You're going to hear some colorful language pretty soon.
And
Antoinette,
can I end with publicly thanking Antoinette, Jeff, really quickly?
of course.
Antoinette, I just want to thank you for your courage and your willingness to allow me to come and infiltrate into your life, into your family, into the fabric of Uniontown. I made a commitment to you and your family, and I'm not going to rest until it's fulfilled. But I think you need to be acknowledged for your perseverance, your resilience, and your courage to share your voice and be a voice of people that some other people don't have the courage to stand up for. So I just want to acknowledge that in you. And I know that you're a God-fearing woman, and God is going to prevail. He always does. So I want to lift you up and encourage you, and thank you all at the same time for me having the opportunity to serve you.
I very appreciative and grateful for the opportunity, Carmen. God put people in people's lives for reasons, and I stand firm on that. And I thank you for understanding my plight and being a willing vessel to do what God has called you to do, and we can't wait. And the reality is that I'm hoping that somebody on here today, or if somebody knows someone who's actually going through some struggle that I'm going through, that they'll be able to reach out to you and be able to share what's going on with them. Too many times we always are quiet, and when there's no vision, the people perish. And so I'm grateful and thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I thank Jeff. My campaign slogan when I was running was "Stand up for change," and I stand by that word, and I stand by 2 Chronicles 7:14 that says a powerful scripture for all of us. If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then they will hear from heaven, and I will forgive them of their sin and heal the land. That's very important, that we stand up and be accountable and do what God has called us to be and call us to do, and do not turn away from it. So I'm standing up for change.
Excellent.
Amen. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. Do not, Carmina, actually, if there's any of that contact and group info that you want to place inside the comment section in the chat so it will live on, people can click on it and find it, please feel free to do that. Antoinette, the same thing on the Facebook, the Facebook posting of this program. Please feel free to list any information in there. We will not let go of this story. I want to stay on top of it. I want to stay informed on it. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody listening, watching, and our Hot 101 listeners around the globe, I have, liked Carmina's We Can't Wait page of, I've been accepted a friend of Antoinette Hodge, so I feel very blessed at the moment. So now I will stay informed on what is happening to her and with her. But this is an ongoing story. This is a very important thing to remember, that this is not over. This what is happening to Antoinette and happening to the good and decent residents of Uniontown. It does not end when the ladies sign off the program this evening. It continues to happen to them and to the residents of this city. The law is continuing to be violated, and violated flagrantly and openly. And that's not supposed to be who we are. And I make no mistake that I am an openly partisan person. I am a New Deal Kennedy Democrat. I make no bones about it. But it's our own party. And I also tell you every single week that our party's not perfect. Well, if this doesn't show you that our party is not perfect, I don't know what does. And we have a lot of work to do. So this is not a partisan issue. Both parties are screwing the people of Uniontown and are failing to make sure that democracy and government work. So to Carmina and to Antoinette, thank you, ladies, for being here. Please don't be strangers. Stay in touch with us. Stay in touch with our listeners and viewers. And please, if there's a way that we can help, let us know. And in fact, George and I will try to see if we can reach out. I'd be stunned if they came on here, but we will reach out to the city government of Uniontown and invite them on this program to have their side aired. But I won't hold my breath. But ladies, stay in touch, and please, please continue to let us know what's happening with you, and that we'll stay on top of it. We're in your corner.
Thank you.
Have a great night, ladies. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
We press on. We'll try to take you to the 8 o'clock hour. It is 7:22 Eastern Time, Daylight Savings Time. It is the 14th of March, 2021, and this is the Kennedy Effect for the 14th of March, 2021. A truly, truly amazing story that the residents, the majority of the residents, in fact, the voting majority of the residents of the city of Uniontown being just ignored, being flat out ignored, a flat out failure of government, a failure of both political parties, a failure of the system completely and totally in every last way that you can imagine in this city and in the county, and to an extent on the Commonwealth level. Because it would seem that Antoinette has received no real help whatsoever in being able to discharge the duties of her office. The Attorney General has not helped. The county district attorney and the local district attorney have done nothing to help her, while Commonwealth law, county law, and municipal law is being just openly completely ignored on every level. I don't know what to say about it. It's hard to even comprehend. It truly is. It's really, really genuinely hard to comprehend it. And I think the part about it that becomes so difficult to grasp is that it is so overtly obvious. It is so very flagrant. It's so in your face that this municipal government is saying to its own people, saying to Antoinette, in fact, saying to its own charter, saying to Commonwealth law, yeah, so what? They're not exactly challenging people to do anything about it, but kind of sort of challenging people to do something about it. And they're trying to do something about it and receiving no assistance. And I can't imagine. I certainly hope that whatever legal avenues that Antoinette is taking, that she will end up suing the city to pay the legal bills, because, boy, I'll tell you what, that ain't going to be cheap. That is not going to be cheap. I mean, that's just a fundamental and complete breakdown of the system. And the fact that she's receiving no help is just, I find it genuinely stunning. I truly do. I really find it stunning. It should not surprise me, but it does. It absolutely does. It shouldn't, really shouldn't, but it does, because it's so obvious. It's just so obvious. It's so in your face. It's just, wow. I mean, it's really hard to put into words. It truly is. It's absolutely hard to put into words. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189 is the phone number. The line is open, 267-227-9189. That's the phone number. The line is open. You can call. Tell us what you think about everything that you just heard. It is open. 267-227-9189, 9189. Now, originally, before this story came across my attention and we devoted so much of the program to it, what I was going to do was take you through essentially what happened this past week. And so why don't we try to do a bit of that as we finish the program. And among the thing, probably the biggest happening of the week, I guess you would have to say, is the passage and signing into law of the American Rescue Package. And I think what we have to look at in the American Rescue Package is I would ask you this question. Why don't I ask you all this question? Does the passage and the impending implementation of the American Rescue Package, does it signal to you an end to Reaganomics? Is that what you get from it? Is this an end to Reaganomics? We see a $1.9 trillion piece of legislation where the overwhelming majority of the funds that are spent in it, I believe it's in the neighborhood of 80%, the funds and the benefits of which go to the bottom economic classes. Money for schools, money for vaccinations, money for municipalities and state governments, municipal governments and state governments, for schools to reopen and become safe, to reopen. Is this the fundamental sea change that we've been waiting for? Is this the end of Reaganomics? Is this the end of trickle down? And President Biden, Trump had a painting of Andrew Jackson in the Oval Office. Andrew Jackson, the general in the War of 1812, the general who openly defied the Supreme Court, who marched indigenous peoples on 1,000-mile journeys out of their own lands, watched them die, the Trail of Tears. Biden has a portrait of Franklin Roosevelt and has often said that Roosevelt is his hero. This American Rescue Package is a very, very New Deal style piece of legislation. It is big, big spending. It is New Deal-esque. But is it a complete game changer? Is it a Rubicon? Is it a hurdle that we have jumped over, ending trickle-down economics, ending Reaganism? Can we say that we've ended it? Now, I would say no. As great as I think this piece of legislation is, and I do, as worthwhile as I believe that it is, and I do, as monumental as I believe that it is, and I do, as necessary as I believe that it is, and I do not believe it signals the end of Reaganism as some do. Why? I will tell you right after this. 7:30 Eastern Time, the East Coast of the United States. 7:30 Eastern Daylight Savings Time. If you have not changed your clocks yet, or if you have that one stray wall decorative clock that you have not changed yet, it is 7:31 Eastern Daylight Savings Time where I sit, whatever time zone you might be in. At least it is daylight savings time here on the East Coast of the United States, 7:31, 14 March 2021. This is the Kennedy Effect. That other side of information is the home Facebook page. You can still come to the comments section, chat with us there. Your comments, your questions, your observations, agree, disagree, show suggestions, guest suggestions. Put it all there. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Missed any of this truly important program, this truly timely program, you can catch all of it at our YouTube channel, also titled That Other Side of Information, and the Instagram is That Other Side of Information. Show announcements and rants. I need to start doing rants. TikTok, That Other Side of Information. And of course, the paid subscription Patreon account where you can receive some free goodies for your paid different levels of Patreon support. All of that money will go back into the program, not into our pockets. It will go back into the program. Patreon.com, That Other Side of Information. Hot101.net, the main website page at hot101.net, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android, and the TuneIn radio app. And the phone line is open, 267-227-9189 as we enter our final half hour, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. One more time, 267-227-9189. It would seem to me that the American Rescue Plan is not the end of Reaganism. And why do I believe that it isn't? It seems to me that Reaganism will not be completely over until we restore a pre-Reagan progressive tax system. That means raising the top marginal tax rate at a minimum to higher than 50%. And remember that the top marginal tax rate up to the beginning of the Reagan administration was 74%. During the Eisenhower administration, it was 91%. Until we do that, and by the way, it should be 91% again. Until we do that, I'm not sure we can declare an end of Reaganism. Until we restore the complete and comprehensive tariff and import tax system that we had before, from the inception of the Washington administration all the way up to Reagan, I'm not sure we can declare the end of Reaganism. Reagan dismantled that system to make it cheaper for big business to ship all of their manufacturing overseas and then re-import the goods here, thus shipping our entire manufacturing base overseas. The United States, during the George W. Bush administration, the 8 years of George W. Bush, lost over 65,000 factories alone, not jobs, factories to overseas, predominantly China, but not exclusively, some India, some Thailand, some Vietnam. Until we reinstitute the banking laws, separating banks from investment banks, from insurance companies. Until we reinstitute the New Deal banking regulations, I'm not sure we can declare an end to Reaganism. Until we reestablish the rules where CEOs need to be paid in regular cash income, where they can no longer be paid in stock, then I'm not sure we can declare an end to Reaganism. Mr. Reagan changed that as well. He changed the rules that CEOs could be paid in stock. Prior to the Reagan administration, that was illegal. They had to be paid in a regular paycheck the way you and I were, or are, I should say. And certainly until the minimum wage is raised to a minimum of $15, I'm not sure we can declare an end to Reaganism. But it's a damn start. And it's about time. It's about time the working class got a break. So what's next? With the rescue plan now law, what's next? And how does the Democratic Party get anything else passed with the filibuster still in place in the Senate? Now, there seems to be not enough intestinal fortitude to eliminate the filibuster, but there does seem to be a growing strength or a growing intestinal fortitude to change the filibuster. What does that mean? To change it into what we would call the old Mr. Smith Goes to Washington filibuster, where the original design of the filibuster itself is not in the Constitution. It is a Senate rule. And up into the 60s and 70s, and even the 80s, it was used almost exclusively, well, it was used exclusively to block civil rights legislation. It is a creation of the senator that is known as the father of the Confederacy, John C. Calhoun, and it was used to block any attempt by Congress to end slavery. Post-Civil War, it was used to block any type of civil rights legislation once the Southern senators were reseated in Congress. And that was the way the filibuster was used up into the 80s, until the Republicans took this very hard right corporate turn. And then it began to be used to block legislation that might raise taxes on rich people. It began to be used to block budgets. It was used to block nominees, judicial nominees. It was used for all sorts of things. And the filibuster as it stands now is not a very active type process. You do not have to do what we were taught the filibuster was. And I have to admit, when I was in school, I had civics as early as 4th grade. And I was taught that it was a constitutional process. It is not. It is a Senate rule. It is not in the Constitution. But I was taught that it was an act. You had to do something to filibuster. And that was that you had to stand on the floor of the Senate and speak and not stop. And that was the delay. That was the actual filibuster was not just a noun, but it kind of was a verb. It was an action. And there is a growing sentiment, not just to eliminate it, although there is not enough support to eliminate it, but there is a growing level of support to redefine it. See, right now, if someone in the Republican corporation doesn't like a piece of Democratic legislation, and let's be honest, they don't like any piece of Democratic legislation. That's why the American Rescue Plan had to be passed through budget reconciliation to avoid the filibuster. All that need be done currently is that any Republican senator can send an email to Majority Leader Schumer and say, I object to this legislation. And that's your filibuster. Done. It then forces the Senate to have 60 votes to pass any objection that is objected to, or i.e. filibustered. It is tyranny by minority rule, which is partly why Calhoun invented it in the first place, because it was a minority of senators who wanted to defend racial injustice post-Civil War, well, pre-Civil War when they wanted to save slavery, and post-Civil War when they wanted to save Jim Crow. But why should that be all the skin you have to have in the game, pardon the pun? Why shouldn't you have to stand up and actually filibuster? Well, there seems to be a growing level of support that that's what you have to do. Even Republican light Joe Manchin is beginning to come around to the idea that, you know what, stand there and speak and have 40 members on the floor with you when you do it. And the minute you sit down, your filibuster is over. The minute you drop under 40 members there, your filibuster is over and a vote takes place. And you know what? I think it's not a bad compromise. Because you know that Republicans are going to filibuster everything that comes out of the House of Representatives, literally everything. If the Democratic majority in the House passed a piece of legislation reaffirming the fact that the sky is blue, Republicans will filibuster it. Even the fake evangelical wing of senators in the Republican ranks in the Senate, if the Democratic House was to pass a resolution reaffirming the divinity of Jesus Christ, they will filibuster that because Democrats are the ones that passed it. So it would seem to me that filibuster reform is beyond necessary. So what is next for this Democratic House? The Biden administration is talking a lot about infrastructure. They would like to spend a $2 to $3 trillion. That's something in my eye for those of you watching. This is not very attractive. This is why we do radio. A $2 to $3 trillion spending bill on infrastructure. And as mind-boggling as those numbers are, our infrastructure, which very little money has been spent on as a total percentage of our gross domestic product, very little money has been spent on since the onset of Reaganism, the austerity, the redistribution of wealth to the top under Reaganism. That would be just a down payment on the amount of money that is needed to redo to only bring up to speed the infrastructure in this country. That would be just a down payment. Our infrastructure regularly grades a D- for the other quote unquote Western Western industrialized developed nations on this planet, the quote unquote first world nations. We have a second or third world infrastructure, crumbling roads, crumbling bridges, lead water pipes, electrical lines that are still up on wooden poles in the air instead of buried out of the harm's way of weather where they should be. We could build a green electrical grid, and literally millions of us could be making $20, $25, $30, $35, $40 an hour building it with the protections of a union. So unless the filibuster is redefined, none of this is going to happen. And of course, let's not forget HR 1, Before the People Act. I'm often asked the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican corporation. Nothing more illustrates the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican corporation than HR 1. The very simple fact is Democrats are trying to make it easier for all Americans, Republicans included, self-identified Republicans included, trying to make it easier for all to vote. And Republicans are trying to make it so that only middle-aged white males can vote. And why do you think that is? Because, as I have been saying here for a very long time, when you have no platform, no leadership, no plan, no policies, it's hard to win elections. So how do you make it easier to win elections? You limit the number of people that vote to the very core group that vote for you, angry, middle-aged, white males. Sounds pre-Civil War, doesn't it? It's pretty much where we are. Scrolling back through our home group Facebook page, the democratically and Democratic elected mayor of West Virginia, who then switched parties to Republican, has been charged and owes the federal government $3.2 million in fines for pollution. He's the owner of the largest coal company in West Virginia. Do as I say, not as I do, I suppose. One of the U.S. House reps from Pennsylvania published a news article this week going after the LGBTQ community. You can't make it up. You just can't make it up. Jim Crow, he would like to see for LGBTQ people. And this man is actually in the House. Fred Keller believes that LGBTQ plus folks don't need anti-discrimination protections and that the lives of such people are merely just a political talking point. What did I just say about Republicans trying to limit the number of people who can vote? Anyone who votes Democratic should not vote. That's how Republicans feel. And no, I don't think every self-identified Republican that you meet on the street, that you might work with, that you might worship with, believes that. But the ones in power, the ones who are being paid off by their corporate owners, yes, that's what they're working for. That's what they're working for. Just this week, a past guest on this program, he's been here, I believe, 3 or 4 times now, Cole Goodman. You remember him. If you don't remember him, go to the YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. You will find the episodes in which Cole has appeared. Was in Harrisburg. I assume at some type of demonstration, although Cole also regularly meets with lawmakers there. He happened to see one of the Pennsylvania state senators, Doug Mastriano. I happened to refer to him as would-be Republican comic book hero, Doug Mastriano. Mr. Mastriano is desperate to become the Commonwealth's next governor. He was also present at the insurrection that took place on January 6th, 2021 at the United States Capitol. It's quite a number of selfies of him that you can find online. He has not, as of yet, been tied to the actual storming of the Capitol, to the best of my knowledge, but he absolutely was there. He is all of the stereotypes you think when you think of Trumpism, pump your chest out, super tough guy, until things actually, he's been quite quiet since the insurrection because, you know, when shite gets real, he runs and hides. Cole happened to see Senator Mastriano on the Capitol steps this week. Cole approached him and said, quote, "Senator, I'm a Democrat and a Pennsylvanian, and I'd love to have a respectful conversation with you about upcoming policy in the state Senate and have some questions for you." Would-be Republican comic book hero Mastriano replied, "I'm not here for you. Go away." Another shining example of Republicans. A shining example. A couple of non-political stories as we approach the top of the hour and the end of the program. An article I posted 2 days ago from The Guardian from Spain. A horse owner who takes his horse into hospice situations where they spend time with patients in their final hours. It is a profoundly sad story, and yet somehow a comforting and hopeful story. And it actually isn't so much of a story, it's mostly a series of pictures. It is somehow hopeful, I'm kind of repeating myself. It is somehow hopeful, but it's also profoundly sad. Peyo and his owner once competed in dressage events. Now they spend their time doing rounds. Oh, I think I might have said Spanish. I have to correct myself. Now they spend their time doing rounds in a French hospital, often staying with sick people until the end. He is kindly referred to as Dr. Peyo, the horse who comforts cancer patients in the city of Calais. It is a pictorial photo essay, I guess you could call it even, shared on that other side of information with the courtesy of The Guardian. It is sad, but yet somehow a loving and heartwarming series of photos. The horse will stay with the patients in their final minutes, in their final time, hours sometimes, giving them comfort and giving the patients something to focus on, someone to comfort them as their time in our plane ends. Also from The Guardian this week, more trees near the home is associated with a reduced risk of antidepressant use. Information that can help urban planners. Tree-lined streets are good for your mental health. And we see in neighborhoods that are largely of color and lower economic status, where the trees have all been cut and so on. It is a simple thing to do. It's also better for air quality. to have trees on your streets. And a very simple thing to do is plant trees. Folks, if you can do it on your own, do it on your own. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. And the last article that I will speak to this week is one that got a lot of attention, and I'm glad that it did. A science story, if we may. Researchers claim a breakthrough in the study of a 2,000-year-old, the Antikythera mechanism, an astronomical calculator found in the Mediterranean Sea. From the moment it was discovered more than a century ago, scholars have been puzzled over the Antikythera mechanism, a remarkable and baffling astronomical calculator that survives from the ancient world. The hand-powered 2,000-year-old device displayed the motion of the universe, predicting the movement of the 5 known planets at the time, the phases of the moon, and the solar and lunar eclipses. But quite how it achieved such impressive feats has proved fiendishly hard to untangle. Now researchers at UCL believe they have solved the mystery, at least in part, and have set about reconstructing the device, gear, wheels, and all, to test whether their proposal works. If they can build a replica with modern machinery, they aim to do the same with techniques from antiquity. Really amazing. It is believed to be the first computer made out of brass. It is a series of gears, layer upon layer upon layer of gears, 2,000 years old, that accurately, more than accurately, precisely tracked the movement of the planets, the moon, the phases of the moon, and lunar and solar eclipses. The Antikythera mechanism. A great story that got a lot of your attention on our page this week. A lot of reaction. 7:58 daylight savings time, Eastern time here in the United States. That will do it for us for this week. George, is there anything else that actually there's one other article I'm going to mention, one last political. I posted this 2 days ago from Lehigh Valley Live, courtesy of Lehigh Valley Live. The Republicans actually held a hearing this week in the Pennsylvania State House decrying the slow reactions and slow customer service of the unemployment office, and kind of complaining about that it's not serving the needs of the people. What's the irony of this? You would think they're just doing their jobs, right? That's what they're supposed to do, government oversight. It's Republicans that decimated the unemployment office in the first place, defunding it, early retirements, lowering staff, cutting benefits. And then they had the gall to bitch about it. You can't make it up. It's also what Republicans do, break government and then bitch about broken government. Their idea, of course, is to then privatize it, which then, of course, costs more money. But then they're the small government ones and the fiscal conservatives, right? I beg you to ponder that. George, is there anything that we missed or anything that we should be looking for or anything that you would like to contribute to the general thoughts before we say goodnight for the week?
No, I had to listen, to Antoinette and Carmina, and I was just appalled that in this day and age we still have this I know we still have discrimination, but to stop somebody from doing their job who was elected, and it seems to be, in smaller towns in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that was the
I've
one
noticed
area that I would disagree with Carmina slightly. I generally agree with her on damn near everything. That is the one place I would slightly disagree with her. I think what's happening to Antoinette would not be happening in places like Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. And Carmina's from Philadelphia. She knows Philadelphia way better than I. Way, way, way better than I. I just tend to think that these things would not be happening in places with larger minority populations or minority populations like Allentown. I think this is a smaller town situation, but your point is very well taken. In 2021, a qualified, a master degree leveled individual is being denied her duly elected, legally elected, open, free, fair elected office because she has a bit more melanin in her skin than you and I.
I come from East Orange, so I grew up in East Orange, and my father was chief of police, and I could relate to her story because every time we tried to get something for the police department, the board of police commissioners, who were African American at the time, they were in the majority. My father, of course, you know, he was white, but I can understand when the status quo is just to carry on with business, everything's fine, don't make waves, and we try to get certain things for the police department, and then every bond we put in, every request we put in, it was always shot down at a meeting. And then what happened was, when my father was forced to retire at age 70, they had made a black police chief. But what happened was, the board of police commissioners wanted to make a lieutenant. They wanted to make their guy the chief. So they bypassed the deputy chief, who was also black, and they, they made all these guys they made all these captains and lieutenants became captains, and captains went to higher pay to get to this lieutenant who never passed the chief exam, and they made him chief, and he got everything because he was black, and it was a black, it was Black City. I understand that, but it's kind of like the same thing. Like when I got here to Pennsylvania, I was just looking around and seeing how certain things work, and I'm like, it's just, I don't know.
You wouldn't think it would happen in this day and age.
Right. You think people would have morals, which they, possibly don't. And I know about the politics and everything. So, I understand that. That's the reason why I never stayed in the police department. I worked for the police department for 5 years, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And but they used different tactics to get me out, like like they would slash my tires, they
is that all?
yeah, slash my tires, like was it like a lot of threats against my father, a lot of threats against me, and I was like, okay, fine, if you want it. And then I moved on, but I could see where she's coming from that type of standpoint, where the county clerk, was that?
Mm-hmm.
The county clerk said, "We will get you." I'm like, really? You're going to say that to me? If they said that to me,
that's the one interesting thing that I forgot to ask Antoinette and Carmina, and I would wonder if they've even done this. research because it's not always a connection that we make, but it's a question that I ask a lot. And I forgot to ask it to them, and I should do that. And it's a question that I will ask of the potential of candidates that I work with. It's the incumbent, and this goes for a lot of different offices. The incumbent that you know, the proverbial you, are taking on, what is their financials and how has it changed while they've been in office?
Right.
So in this case, the office holders that have all been discussed in Uniontown that are denying Antoinette her office, that are denying her to do the job she was elected to do.
What skeletons
What
do
are
they have
their
in their closet?
Did they enter office as, you know, was Mr. Gaddy a union carpenter making $32,000 when he was first elected, and now he has $1 million home? I don't know any of that. I don't know any of that. Let me be plain. I do not know any of that. But you will find, you know, Mitch McConnell was a middle-class guy when he entered Congress 900 years ago. He's worth, conservatively, small c conservatively, he's worth easily over $50 million. And his personal worth over the last 8 years has increased a minimum of $2.5 million a year, which is pretty good for a senator who only makes $170,000 a year. The truth of the matter is that he and Elaine Chao, his wife, who is a member of the family of the largest shipping company in China, together they are worth nearly $1 billion. Now, how does that happen? And that doesn't happen by accident either. When, wow, God, I'm blanking on his name. Sharp James was originally, George, you'll remember the name Sharp James, who was originally elected mayor of Newark. He was the mayor right before Cory Booker. He was a middle class, bordering on poor man of color, but he was a lawyer. He was worth nothing. I mean, nothing. He served 3 terms. I think he was elected. I think Cory Booker ousted him after his 3rd term. He was a millionaire. He also was brought up on federal charges for corruption. Explains why he was a millionaire. This happens. And it happens a lot. And it happens on both, well, it happens on all sides of the political spectrum. And by the way, it does not happen to even more people. Lots of folks enter politics for all the right reasons. All the right reasons. And they don't enrich themselves. And they don't do it to get rich. But there are some that do. And I would wonder in this case, not just the fact that Antoinette is a woman of color, this clearly has a lot to do with it, but I would wonder if they find Antoinette being someone with a master's level education, if they fear that she's someone who's going to look into the books. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. And I have to admit,
has something to do with it.
I have to admit that I have to admit to all of you in the audience, I neglected to ask that question, and I should have. And it's why everyone in Lehigh County hates Mark Pinsley, because he opens up the books and looks in the dark places where they don't want him to look.
Right.
And that's, you know, I wonder if that isn't part of it. And anyway, anything else we got? It's 10 after. Let's wrap this puppy up.
No, I have nothing.
Somebody, you and I either need to put on hazmat suits or something. We absolutely must figure out this internet problem. Our apologies from the team here at the Kennedy Effect that the internet went wonky again on you. To our to all of our loyal listeners at 101.net, please, we've apologized that the system and the connection seemed to reset itself again tonight, several times. I cannot tell you why that's happening. Seems to be a recent phenomena. We went all through, other than like the first 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks of the program, we've been rock solid. I do not know why the last several weeks we have been having internet issues. We will effort a solution. Forgive me, I simply do not know why it is happening. But our apologies to you if you were hearing interference or you were hearing freezes and robotic type stuff. But we will have to get on getting that fixed.
As soon as I get my shot, I will be there.
Yeah.
As soon as I get my,
I hope.
I will be there. Well, I would be there like a shot, but
Yeah.
I need to get
really,
the shot.
really hope I do not need another internet upgrade, because I really can't afford it.
No, I know.
The internet price that I pay now is a joke. And I certainly can't pay for another upgrade. I don't have the money for it, but it's
right.
I cannot explain. We're not doing anything different for you out in the listening and watching audience and viewing audience. We're doing nothing different than we were doing all summer. Again, we did the first few episodes on a pretty bad laptop. Then we got the MacBook. Everything's been great. We're doing nothing different than we've been. And then in the last, what is it, George, 3 weeks, 4 weeks or something, now we're having internet issues. I cannot explain it.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you hanging in there with us. We apologize for the issues, but we appreciate you hanging in there with us, and we will try to get it sorted out. Well, we know how to fix it. It's just a matter of actually. George would have to lead me through it, and leading me through IT things is like, that's not it's not a pretty thing. It's not a pretty.
I just have to get there.
Pretty.
I have to get there.
It's not pretty. George could try to lead me through it, but he knows better. Probably about 5 minutes into it, I'd be throwing really expensive equipment and punching crystal screens, and it would just be, it's not a good thing. And that Irish temper would be flaring properly. And
well, now you can actually throw your laptop that I just upgraded, because now it will be a fault-tolerant one.
I wouldn't throw it now, would I? Because it's fixed.
It's faster.
I wouldn't be throwing it.
But you can throw it because it is a solid state disk. It's a solid state hard disk.
Well, I wouldn't be throwing it now, would I?
No.
So anyway.
Okay.
That's it for this week, folks. I think you got nothing else. True? We're good?
Yes, sir. We're good.
That's it for this week. We thank every single one of you for being with us, and we truly mean it. I beg you to stay on top of the story. Keep following, again, for Carmina, and to continue to follow the story. Probably the best place would be on Facebook. It is the We Can't Wait Pennsylvania Coalition. Search for it on Facebook, find it, give it a like, and then you will stay up to date on everything having to do with this story of Antoinette Hodge in Uniontown, PA. The duly elected, legally, fairly, openly elected, majority elected treasurer of the city of Uniontown, Fayette County, Pennsylvania. Again, just because we are leaving the air does not mean that you will have to miss us. Just because the live program is ending does not mean that the Kennedy Effect world leaves you. You can find everything having to do with the Kennedy Effect. The Facebook home group page is always there for you, always updated. I upload stories every single day. April uploads stories. George uploads stories. It's it's the internet. It's open 24/7. You can get there anytime you wish. the home group Facebook page for the program and for all things having to do with the Kennedy Effect team is That Other Side of Information. If you missed anything having to do with this program tonight, if you jumped in midstream, you weren't exactly sure, you missed the timeline as we walked you through the story tonight, you can find the full recorded version, all of the program, including the dreadfully exciting pre-show at our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information, Instagram, That Other Side of Information. You can always contact us even when we are not on the air. We do have a Twitter account at That Kennedy Talk or twitter.com/That Other Side of Information. You can find us there as well. We will return next week live from 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Shocker, folks, shocker, no currently scheduled guest, but, you know, we'll have a program for you. We will be here. And hey, here's another shocker. The phone line will be open, so we will hope to hear from you then. For now, for me, well, you know what? I'm not supposed to go first. That was pretty rude. For DJ Lex and DJ Earl at hot101.net, for our technical producer and IT supreme, George Dare, for his lovely wife and support, and I know supporter of the program, no matter how many hours I steal away from George, Lynn, and for our executive producer and the woman responsible for getting us onto hot101.net and helping me get this whole program started, my sister from a different mister, April Riddick, and I am Jeff Kennedy. We will see you next week on the Kennedy Effect. Until then, please have conversations with each other, not arguments. Be good to one another. And please be good to yourselves. We will see you next week. Take care.